Chapter 0.1, March 10th, 1969, Reno, Nevada, United States of America. He was standing outside a truck stop diner gas station, squinting into the sun, denim jacket thrown over his shoulder, dirty white t-shirt tucked into a pair of jeans. He thought he was a lot cooler than he was. He thought he was some American icon, a rebel rambler blazing down the highway, a rock star without any songs. He wasn't the only one, smoking a cigarette, drinking a cold beer out of a boot. It was 1969. He headed across the parking lot with a swagger like everyone was watching him. Mostly they were trying not to. "Howdy, friend," he called out, approaching a man looking at the engine of his RV, mumbling something profane. "What's that?" the man said, turning around. "Oh, hi there. I don't have any change for you. I'm busy, all right? So piss off. Maybe I can lend a hand. Or maybe we can both help each other out," trying to shoot him a beaming smile. It almost came off. "Thanks, pal, but no thanks." "Wait, but Dad," a boy said, hopping down out of the RV. "Get back in the car, boy." "But Dad." "Hey there, young man," the man in denim said, squatting down to be closer to his height. "Pal, I asked you kindly to beat it. Boy, back in the fucking RV." "But Dad, his patches," pointing to the man's jacket. "Oh," the man said, with mock but friendly surprise. "Good eye on you, boy," unfolding his jacket to show the patches. "You a race fan?" "Whoa, are those real?" "Boy," the father warned. "Of course they're real. You can see 'em right there." "So, are you a race car driver?" "It don't matter if he's Richard fucking Petty," the father said, finally coming over, grabbing the boy's arm and tossing him towards the door of the RV. "Just 'cause he can drive a car don't mean he can fix one. Especially not one of these goddamn fucking things," glaring at the broken down RV, then turning to glare at the man with the denim jacket, who was just grinning at him through a horribly patchy beard and a mess of greasy hair on top of his head. "Actually, I'm a race car mechanic." "Are you really?" the boy wanted to know. The father shot him a look, then back to the man. "Yeah, I work on a pit crew. You know what that is?" talking to the boy. "Yeah, I do. It's when the cars go around, and when, like they need new tires." "Boy," the father scolded the boy again, but then asked the man, "Is you really a mechanic?" "Sure am," he said with a big smile, bowing slightly. "Jared McAfee, professional mechanic at your service," reaching out his hand for introductions. "McAfee," the man scoffed, looking at his outstretched palm like it was diseased. "How's a Negro motherfuck like you got an Irish name?" "Oh, I'm Mexican. Lots of Irish blood down there. Must be the tequila." "Mexican?" Like this was much worse. "Yep, I dark up pretty good," pulling up his sleeves to show his arms, especially all day in the sun when we got a race. "And what the fuck are you doing just hanging around this gas station? You work here too?" "Well, actually, I'm looking for a ride. I was hoping if I could—" "Dad," the boy interrupted. "Dad, if he can get the RV fixed, can we give him a ride?" "Well, now that's an idea," the mechanic said, kneeling down to the boy's level again. "Smart kid," with a wide grin, nudging him in the arm playfully. "I don't even know you, boy," talking to the Mexican mechanic, not the boy. "And I'm supposed to let you fuck around with my $8,000 vehicle?" "Dad," a girl whined, leaning her head out the RV. "Just let him try to fix it. I don't want to be stuck at this goddamn gas station for the rest of my fucking life," with an impatient sigh. Eyebrows darker than her hair, roots darker than the ends, freckles, oily skin, lips too big for her mouth, beautiful, wide-hipped, and with a sizable rack already under her shirt. "Watch your mouth, young lady. And get back inside. Dad, she whined again. You heard me. She groaned in frustration and slammed the door. The father muttered something about her and shook his head. So what do you think you can do? Conceding to the situation without asking for help. You actually know anything about cars? The mechanic was just standing there with his hands on his hips, grinning up at where the pretty teenage girl had just stormed off. I'm talking to you. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah, rubbing his hands together. I can get you up and running. Bet it'll only take a couple minutes. These new models always got something wasn't tightened down right or greased up good enough, heading over to check under the hood, all the time with a grin and a jaunt in his step, with the kindly sort of attitude that someone who was dark-skinned had to have sometimes to make sure anyone talked to him at all, or treated him halfway decent. There was a bit of sarcasm in his demeanor, but he was friendly enough. They shot Martin Luther King Jr. last year. It was better for his health that he be friendly. You're telling me, the father said. I just bought this damn thing with 17 fucking miles on it, and the motherfucker breaks down on me first fucking day I take it out of town. The boy came inching forward to try and be included, watching his father to make sure he didn't get in the way and get yelled at. Just tell me exactly what happened when you had to pull over. We'll have this baby purring in no time. They were driving down the highway. The mechanic stood leaning on the passenger seat with the father driving and the boy riding shotgun. So then, the mechanic was saying, the tire goes flying off, the car starts spitting sparks, putting his arms out and shaking his fingers to imitate sparks. Whoa, the kid said. Happened right in front of us. And I'm just looking up at this shower of sparks, and you know what that is. It's all the little metal bits scraping off and burning. And all this yellow fire is flying through the air like someone just jumped in the pool and made a big splash. The boy's eyes were wide, mouth hanging open, turned around in his seat, rapt at the man's story. Suddenly, the guy next to me goes down. I didn't even know what happened, but it snapped me out of just looking, and I jumped back around the barrier and hit the ground. Turns out one of the lug nuts popped off and nailed the guy right in the side of the head, acting it out for the kid, smacking himself in the side of the head, rolling his eyes around like a dizzy cartoon. Put a dent in his skull the size of a quarter. No way! Yeah, it was brutal. Enough of that, the father said. He survived, the mechanic said, winking at the boy. Just had a bad headache for a couple days. And a dent. Listen, son, the father said. Why don't you go on start getting ready for bed? We're going to pull over soon and rest up, okay? Sure, Dad. Did you want me to get the sleeping bag out? No, I told you. Jared gonna use the sleeping bag across the kitchen floor here. I'm gonna sleep in the loft above the cockpit, and you and your sister gonna take the bed in the back. Dad, he complained. Do I have to? Yes, you have to. But Dad, she's gonna kick me. Then kick her back. You gonna let a girl bully you around? Every time I have to sleep in the same bed with her, she steals all the covers and kicks me all night long. Jared was grinning at this. Go back there and get ready for bed. This ain't a discussion. Fine, rolling his eyes, getting up in the moving vehicle to do what his father said. And tell your sister to get ready for bed too. I don't know what the hell she's doing back there. Jared made a gross face at the boy about his sister, and the boy laughed. What's so funny? The father snapped, and so the kid said, nothing, and left. Jared stayed standing behind the empty chair, and the father turned to him a couple times, and eventually said, Sit down. Oh, no thanks. I hurt my back lugging tires around for so many years. It feels better to stand up. Sit down. Well, if you insist, kindly enough, as if he hadn't heard the malice in the father's voice. He sat and watched out the window as pitch-black shadows folded across the desert, red and orange burned across the sky, and heat wafted up from the asphalt in the distance, invisible waves, distortions. Wind hissed around the corners of the large squared-off boat, a 1960s motorhome. Cars hummed or droned by. The radio played just a little louder than the road. I appreciate the help back there. Not a problem, sir. A friend in need is a friend indeed. I ain't your friend, And you ain't mine. Jared frowned and grit his teeth a second, but then just took a breath and nodded. No, of course not. I'm just doing your nigger ass a favor. Jared rolled his neck around. 'Cause you done me a favor. That's it. Yes, sir. I don't know what your deal is, but you seem like you work hard. Don't keep to yourself like you should, but ain't got no mean streak about you. So I can show you respect, you show it to me. Contradicting himself a bit, but it was 1969. Sir, I'll take you into San Francisco, he shrugged, with all the other freaks. You're gonna be there early tomorrow afternoon anyway, mumbling to himself, convincing himself this was okay, and he didn't have to get worked up about it. But that's it, turning back to him. I don't want you eating none of my food. I don't want you stealing none of my shit. No, sir. Don't want you talking to my son anymore, glaring hard at him. No, sir, keeping his eyes straight ahead. Don't want you even looking at my daughter, shaking his head at him, slow and serious. No, sir, like he would never dream. The father turned back to the road and was silent for a while. They drove through the last bits of day and into the night. He was lying on the floor, staring up at the ceiling. The father said he'd let him use a sleeping bag, but all he gave him was an itchy blanket, not even a pillow. The father was up in a little loft bed above the driver's seat, or the cockpit as he called it, snoring. The man they called Jared laid there for a while longer, hands folded behind his head, listening to the snoring. He glanced one last time towards the father, who hadn't moved in a long time, and from the smell seemed to have been drinking beer out of his big gas station mug the whole drive. So he got up quietly, balled up the blanket a little to vaguely look like a person was still there, and went out the door outside the RV. They were parked at a rest stop along the highway, somewhere between LA and Vegas. Other RVs, semi-trucks, family station wagons parked. Some cars only passing through. Others had sunshades up in the windows trying to get some privacy and sleep before moving on. Dark night in all directions past this little spot. He went around to the back of the RV, pulling a joint out of his shirt pocket as he glanced over his shoulder, when he tripped over the daughter's legs and stumbled, almost fell on top of her. Ow, she complained. What the fuck? Oh shit, I'm sorry, he said, noticing her. Watch where you're fucking going, she said, making a face at him as she leaned away and he walked around her, sat on the trailer hitch towing a little sedan behind the RV. I didn't see you. I'm so sorry. Yeah, well, holding a cigarette halfway to her lips. They met eyes and neither said anything at first. What? Rolling her eyes about the cigarette, even though that was not why he was looking at her. You're gonna tell my dad? No, smiling, trying to light a match but not succeeding. I'm just trying to smoke real quick too, tossing out another match that went out in the breeze. I can't get a light. Is the RV blocking the wind there? He asked, sitting down next to her. She made that same disgusted face and inched away, sat messing with her hair, looking the opposite direction. He looked at her as he got the joint lit, waving out the match. She was wearing some stretchy little shorts, pinching at the baby fat in her thighs, and what looked like her little brother's baseball shirt with no bra to support what she had too much of. You ever smoke one of these? Holding it out to her. She frowned and leaned away. Is that marijuana? Smelling it and leaning further from the smoke. Yeah, with a big grin, keeping it there in her face. Go ahead. I don't, shrugging and shaking her head. It's better than that cigarette, he said with a chuckle. She looked over her shoulder, back at the parking lot where it was only cars in the dim light. Just try it. What's it like? It's like relaxing. Relaxing? Like thinking more clearly. Thinking more clearly, rolling her eyes. Just try it, motioning it towards her again. I'm smoking it. I'm not acting weird, am I? She raised an eyebrow like maybe he was. I'm just relaxing. Thinking clearly, she said sarcastically. Crystal, he smiled. She took a deep breath, looked over her shoulder again, but then took the joint from him. After a while of just holding it, she decided to take a puff, at his urging, but it had already gone out. He smiled and laughed at her, and she couldn't help doing the same. It was infectious. She didn't meet boys like him, because he wasn't a boy. She couldn't tell how old he was, but in the dark, he didn't look all that bad. Didn't look like her dad or anything. She couldn't get her lighter lit, so he put his arm around her to block the wind. They laughed, and she finally lit the thing, then took such a huge hit she erupted in a fit of coughing. "Cover your mouth! Cover your mouth!" he was telling her frantically, so she tried with her hands, but it didn't do much. He was high as shit and pretty fucking scared of someone finding him with this young white girl smoking weed, especially her father. Even someone else's father might kick his ass. So he put his hands over her mouth too. Looked almost like he was hurting her, but then she shoved her face into his chest to deaden the noise and kept coughing. He pulled her down to the ground, slightly under the RV, looking around to make sure they were still alone. She coughed into him and didn't object to his manhandling her. After a while, she started laughing, so he started laughing. He got the joint going again, and they passed it back and forth. She actually pulled him further under the RV and stayed pretty much stuck to him from then on. "So how old are you?" 15, she said. "Well, 16 in July, like that made a difference." 15 years old? You look like a grown woman to me, he smiled, but didn't look at her body, just grinned straight in her eyes. She shoved him in the chest. "Oh my God," she complained, but there was no doubt she enjoyed the attention. "My friend Becky?" Then she rolled her eyes because he didn't know her. She thought she was going to have big ones because, like, she started getting tits when she was 12, and I didn't. But then it was only last year, and mine just kind of exploded. She laughed and stuck her chest out so they could both look at them. He reached out and felt one, just a couple gentle squeezes like checking the ripeness of a fruit. She started to scream, then pressed her lips together to kill it. "You can't just do that," embarrassed, not quite sure if she liked it or not. "No, but really," he said, "when I said you were like a grown woman, I meant how mature you are," rolling onto his back and looking at her up over his head. "I've seen you with your brother," even though he hadn't. "I might as well be his fucking mom sometimes. My mom ditched out on us when I was 10. I pretty much take care of him. And my dad, like, he makes okay money. Like really okay money. But at home, he's pretty worthless. He just drinks. Well, your dad's a little uptight, but your brother's cool." "Alex?" she said, like he was crazy. "Yeah, he's cool. He's such a fucking dork." "I can hear you," quietly from the window above them. They glanced up and out from under the RV to see the window cracked. The man they called Jared laughed, but she said, "Quit spying, you little shit." "I'm not. Put your fucking earplugs in. They're with the hunting stuff." "Ugh," she grumbled. "Just relax," the man said. "Your bro's cool. He won't say anything. Right, Alex?" "Right. See?" "Close the window," she said. "You should be a little nicer to him." "I am nice to him. I'm always looking out for him. He needs to be nicer to me," she said up to the window. "Just relax," he said, reaching for her leg. She moaned a little bit just from that and started breathing heavy. "Let me show you something else marijuana does," reaching up her shorts. "Alex," she said, "come outside. You go use the sleeping bag instead." "What?" "No. Dad's gonna see me. Just cover your head. He won't know. Just," writhing under the man's hands. "He was drinking while he drove. He's not gonna wake up. I can hear him fucking snoring from out here. You know he's not gonna wake up till the sun." After a short pause, "Laura, get out. Are you high?" "No, I'm not high. I just smoked a cigarette. You saw me." Another pause. "I guess so." "Come on, Alex," Jared said, standing up. "I'll help you down," reaching up to the window. "It's not that high," he said. "I can jump. Just let me help you. It'll be quieter." "Okay. I can hear that radio in there. Me and your sister just want to see if we can find some Jimi Hendrix to listen to. It goes well with cigarettes," grabbing him under the arms and lowering him to the ground. "I know what you're gonna do," the boy said, like he was ashamed and wouldn't look up. Shut up, stupid. You don't know anything. We're just talking. I just don't want to be out here on the fucking ground. I'm getting dirt and stuff all over me, wiping off her leg. Okay, her brother agreed without inflection. You're just sleeping anyway, so go use the sleeping bag. What's the difference? Dad won't wake up. I already told you. I said okay. And don't get fucking caught, she threatened. I won't. If you do, I'm going to tell Dad about those magazine pictures you have. What? No, I don't have anything, standing up real straight, like at any moment he might take off running to protect his lie. Then he's going to whoop your little butt twice for it. I'm pretty sure you fucking stole that stuff from Dad anyway. Where else would you get it? Nuh-uh. You don't know anything. Don't go into my room. Those pages folded up in your comics? Hey, but He couldn't even get an excuse out. Then shut up and do what I tell you. And don't get caught, she repeated, leaning into his face. Or you're fucking dead, you little shit. I'll seriously fucking leave you at a rest stop, glaring at him, because she knows what he's thinking. Don't fucking look at me like that. Whatever, the boy said, kicking at the dirt and glancing up at Jared, who wanted to wink at him, but decided that wasn't the right move and just gave him a small grin. I don't even care what you do. At least he's not a fucking dork like Blake. You little shit, swatting at his head as he scampered off around the RV. Oh, fuck, the girl said, riding him, but really just flailing while he held her hips to keep her from bucking off. Quiet down. James Brown was playing on the radio, but the louder he turned it to drown her out, the louder she got. She moaned, biting her lip, but not actually quieting down as though her racist father was in the other room, probably due to the influence of marijuana. Oh shit, baby. I'm gonna fucking nut. What? I'm gonna come. Yeah? Going harder and getting louder. No, calm down, bitch. I want it. I want to feel you come in me. Calm down, grabbing at her hips. What the fuck is this? Shouting from outside the room. Ow! Dad! No! No, it's just me! Ow! And then sobbing after a loud slap. Holy fuck, the girl whispered, freezing where she was, completely naked riding this hairy grown man's dick, covering her big tits with both arms. She tried to jump off him as she heard the stomping coming nearer, but he grabbed her by the throat and slammed her down, got on top of her. The father came bursting into the room, and the man they called Jared reached into the boot he was still wearing and grabbed a revolver, cocked it and fired at the father, who shouted something, but the words went out as he fell, still alive. Then he took another shot in the head and slumped lifeless. The girl screamed over the ringing in everyone's ears. He looked around frantically but kept fucking, like some kind of animal caught in the act, making weirdly deep primal groans like he was some kind of ape, some half-evolved freak. She screamed and clawed at his chest. He grit his teeth and growled, puffing up his chest to let her scratch, bellowing whenever she tore at him and drew blood or ripped out hair. She kept screaming, tearing at his nipples now, and that shit fucking hurt, so he started beating her with the gun. He beat her over and over until she stopped grabbing him, and then until she slumped, and then until she bled. He panted over the lifeless body, pulled out and stood catching his breath. He shook his face and then his whole body like a dog drying off. The boy was standing in the doorway aiming a shotgun at him. The man held his gun at his side, in the quiet, in the ringing silence. His eyes didn't blink a long time, piercing white staring in the dark. He slowly lowered his gun, watching the boy carefully, stuck it in his boot like it was over with. He put his clothes back on like the boy wasn't aiming a shotgun at him, like his dad wasn't slumped in the corner, like his sister wasn't naked with her head bashed in on the bed, full of cum, skin and blood and hair under her fingernails. He turned back to face the boy, buttoning his shirt, and then quicker than the boy could get the nerve, he reached into his shirt, drew another gun and shot the little boy. He collapsed and dropped the shotgun. Sorry, kid, with a sigh, like a different person, rolling his shoulders to shake off that old skin. He put the gun back and finished buttoning his shirt, leaned over the bed in the ringing, shattered light, made a face of loving concern, sighed with his palm in the air, gesturing like he was admiring some breathtaking work of art, but at the same time like he'd learned this refinement from a cartoon. He caressed the young girl. Half of her face was dented in and dripping black blood. He kissed her lips, then ran his fingers across them. He grabbed the keys from the father's pocket, hopped out of the RV, as a few other people were getting out of their vehicles too, or at least peeking out, keeping quiet and low. "Did you hear those shots?" a woman asked, but like she didn't want to say the word. "Yeah, I heard," the man who probably wasn't Jared said. "I don't know what it was, but I'm not sticking around to find out. Somebody needs to go notify the police." It sounded so close," the woman was saying. "I'm heading to find an emergency phone box. I'd leave or find a good place to hide if I was you. I'm a huntsman, and those were definitely gunshots." He rushed around the back of the RV to unhitch the car, got in, started it up and turned on the radio, pulled out onto the highway and slammed the gas, bolting out into the night. The man's face at odd angles in the mirror, the wind in the night rushing past, smoking, drinking as he drives, fucking with the radio, desert passing out the windows. He hangs his arm out the window like he's flying, tosses out empty cans and cigarette butts and the last owner's little trinkets and receipts. Takes his shirt off and hurls that out the window too. Turns up the radio and sings along. Swinging his head around, screaming at no one, eyes burning into the road in front of him, old yellow headlights cutting across the dark desert, tires flinging the asphalt back like a loose rug, as the engine to some shitty little family sedan cranks and complains and catapults the man further on down the highway. Chapter 1.1, March 11th, 1969, Needles, California, United States of America. He sat in a diner staring at his hands, rubbing his fingers together, silverware clinking on plates, low chatter, slow, corny country music, drank some coffee. A pretty waitress came by and he perked up, with a big smile through his beard. "Was you gonna get anything to eat, honey?" "Oh no, just the coffee's fine." "Okay, well you let me know if you change your mind." "Second thought, I am a little hungry," he said, flagging her back. "When's the last time somebody ate you, honey?" with a grin, setting some money on the table and puckering his lips like he meant to do it right now. Excuse me?" frowning at him, twisting at the notepad in her hands, glancing at the money. "You didn't just ask me that." I'm sorry," acting embarrassed. "I'm not from round here," putting on some kind of accent at the end. "Guess not," rolling her eyes and walking away. He took a deep breath and collected himself after that embarrassment, but certainly watched her ass move as she walked away. He paid for the coffee using someone else's wallet, slipped some beef jerky under his jacket on the way out, and got back on the road. He drove along eating the jerky, singing intermittently, past a wreck where the cops were pulled over with their lights flashing. He craned his neck to see what it was, flipped off a cop who looked at him, then laughed boldly, speeding off. One hand on the wheel, the other just scratching his chin, staring down the highway, finishing another beer. He tossed some cigarette butts into the empty can, then ousted it out the window. Down the road further was a person, walking along the shoulder, shirt over their head to block the sun, swaying and shimmering in the heat in the distance, like smoke wafting or water evaporating. He messed around with the stations, noticed the person in the distance. His face didn't change, and he kept looking for a good song to sing. She turned around and saw a car coming in the distance. She squinted, and it didn't look like the police. She wiped the sweat off her face, shook her hair out, and tossed it back like a model getting out of the water. He found a station that came in halfway through some static, jazz, left it there, squinting at the person getting closer now. They had their arm out trying to get a ride. Her blonde hair was a little curled and matted, but it waved behind her in the breeze. Her shoulders were freckled and tanned. She had on a sweaty, stained, and too small tank top that didn't cover her stomach, and jeans she'd cut off somewhere up the thigh, barefoot, cuts and bruises on her arms, which she tried to wipe clean with the shirt. She waved at the car, beaming a smile and moving her whole body back and forth as she waved. He was sticking his chin up in the air and making a very serious face, cool jazz playing, as the person on the side of the road came a little clearer. Suddenly, he realized it must be a girl, and his eyes got wide. She was shaking her hips around and waving at him, and now he had a big open-mouth grin at the cute little sun-tanned blonde. He started laughing uncontrollably, howling at himself, his good luck. "Hey! Hey there!" she called out, waving as the car came by and came to a screeching halt in the dirt ahead of her. "And then, I just couldn't believe," she went on, sitting in the passenger seat but turned facing him, gesturing towards him, gripping onto his arm. "The tire blew out and we swerved off the road, and it's like we were in slow motion. I couldn't believe. The car went a-tumbling, and I thought I was well, I was so scared," with some sort of southern accent, gripping him and leaning closer, a real damsel in distress. "Are those cuts on your arm okay?" "I don't know. Do they look okay?" Always leaning on him, always giving him eyes like she needed him, those blue eyes, talking in that accent. He was in love with her already. And my husband," she suddenly started crying into his shoulder, and then lurched back in her chair, crying into her hands. "I'm so sorry," he said, reaching over to rub her leg. "We were in the air. I felt like I was floating. I didn't know which way was up or down." "I can't even imagine, sweetheart." "I'd probably be dead right now, except our car had these new security devices. No, safety devices. He was talking about them. They're called airbags." "I've never heard of those." "Well, the way they work, if you get in a crash, this big balloon thing from the dashboard fills with air really fast, so you don't smack into anything hard. You just bounce on the balloon." "That's amazing." "Well, it sure was. It saved my life. But my husband—" "It's okay," rubbing her leg. She grabbed his hand and held it tight. He was in love. I didn't even know what to do. I got out of the car and just started walking. I didn't know what to do. You're the first person who came by and stopped for me. I'm so grateful." "Of course, baby. Of course." "I don't know what I would have done without you. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. You're ever so kind," squeezing his hand. "Of course. I just saw a person in need. I had to help. What kind of a man would I be if I didn't?" I wanted to help my Jack, but he was already—" "Oh, Jack," she sobbed. "It's okay." "I don't even want to go to the police yet. I don't know what to do, but I can't bear to have to talk to the police about it, or go back to the... She kept crying. No, of course not. You take all the time you need, rubbing her back, massaging her shoulders. You're so kind. He looked at her beautiful tanned body and smiled, feeling her hair. I lost my ring somehow. Huh? My wedding ring. It came off in the crash. I don't... Well, I'm sure someone will find it at the, well, he scratched his head, not wanting to say the crash or the accident. I bet you could use a metal detector and find it real quick. You're so kind. She smiled at him through the tears. I don't know why, but this all probably sounds so strange, but strange things happen sometimes, baby. I don't know why, but I feel like we've known each other a long time. You're so kind, giving him those soft, sad blue eyes. He smiled at her and squeezed her hand like it was true. Oh, fuck yeah, Daddy, she said, getting fucked doggy style in a dark hotel room. Pull my hair. Pull my fucking hair. Fuck me like a whore. I'm your little fucking whore. Fucking hurt me, Daddy. Yes, Daddy, yes. He'd never been with a chick whose husband just died in a car crash right next to her a few hours ago. But if this is what it was like, he needed to do it all the time. He needed to pick up crying women at the hospital or the police station. This bitch was insane. She was the craziest, sexiest bitch he'd ever met. He wanted to fuck her 1,000,000 more times. He almost didn't want to kill her. But she was way too crazy not to kill. Fuck yeah. Fuck my fucking husband. Fuck my dead fucking husband. Piece of shit. He never fucked me like this. Ugh. Give me that fucking dick. She was great. You want me to ride you? Let me ride you, Daddy. Let me fuck you. I'll fuck you good, Daddy. Just like you do me. They rolled over so she was on top, and suddenly she had a small switchblade to his throat. Ooh, you like that, she said, pressing harder. He just glared at her, wanted to say something, but she was pressing so hard with the knife it might have cut his throat just to take a deep breath. Oh, Daddy, rolling her eyes back to the top of her head, still grinding on him, giggling at him. You just got really hard. He couldn't say anything. Sometimes guys get so nervous they come, she smiled at him. And then I slit their fucking throat as they orgasm. He closed his eyes and tried to slow his breathing. I bet it's a pretty intense orgasm. Just let me know when you want it, Daddy, pressing the knife harder, grinding deeper and longer. He tried to move a little further from the blade, away from her hips, pressing harder into the bed. Don't go limp on me now. That's no fun, she giggled. I'm still gonna kill you. You might as well do it the fun way. She laughed and sat up straighter to grind on him, moving her one hand to touch her body like this was a way of taunting him. And when she was off balance, trying to be too sexy and cute, he grabbed the hand with the knife and spun around on top of her. Hey, she screamed, like he wasn't playing fair, fighting him, but he was gripping both of her wrists and too strong to get off her. He held her right hand against the headboard and jammed her own knife through it, slicing straight into the cheap wood, pinning her there. She screamed, Son of a bitch! Yeah, you fucking love it, huh, bitch? Already fucking her again, pinning her other wrist, his heart racing, full of adrenaline and lust and rage. Fuck you! Help! Rape! He slapped her and then fought her free hand again. Rape! 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 He mimicked in a whiny voice and laughed at her. You fucking whore! He shouted, getting louder, fucking her harder, rocking the bed and banging the headboard, beating against the wall with his palm. Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah! You motherfucker! From outside or in another room, it just sounded like the same rough sex that had been going on for a while. You piece of shit! Her head bouncing and banging, still trying to pry her hand off the headboard. Fuck you, bitch! You were gonna kill me. I was just trying to get you off. Come on, you're not into some freaky shit? Look at you. Fuck you. Well, come on and do it then. Kill you? Yeah, fucking kill me. Or fuck me. The least you can do is fuck me like a man. Even though she could barely speak, he was fucking her so hard. You fucking faggot, she called him. because in 1969 this was a generally accepted term for a female to call a male she deemed an inadequate sexual partner. He slapped her in the face, and then there was another fight over her free hand. She tried to grab the knife. He grabbed her hand. She bit him. She went for his dick, and he grabbed her by the throat, reached back like he would punch her, so she went to block, and abandoned her attempt at doing something to his dick or balls. It wasn't worth the risk of retaliation. He spun her onto her stomach. The knife kept the hand pinned to the headboard, but her arm twisted awkwardly. There was a loud pop. She screamed as her shoulder came out of the socket. He started spitting on her asshole. "You fucking..." But then she just screamed and groaned as he shoved it in. "Fuck you like a man, huh, bitch?" She screamed and tried to lurch away, further up the bed. "Fuck you in the ass like a man. You crazy asshole. Quit screaming and just take it. You fucking love it." Slapping her ass, slapping her in the back of the head. "I can't even feel it," she screamed through her teeth. "Your dick's so fucking small." Screaming into the mattress while this man she just tried to murder kept hate-fucking her, out of spite and whatever other sick enjoyment he was getting out of it. She was rolled up in the bedsheet on the ground, kicking, writhing, and shouting muffled things, trying to push her head out the top. He was standing over her, buttoning his pants casually. He found 2 more knives and a small .38 in her things. She didn't have any money. The rest was just women's stuff. Some razors, a pack of light cigarettes, one of which he was smoking now. She squeezed her face out the top of the sheet, started yelling at him before her mouth was even out. "You fucking son of a..." Having to take a deep breath, like surfacing from underwater. "You son of a bitch! What do you think you're fucking doing? You're gonna go to jail. You're gonna get the fucking electric chair, you sick fuck." "Fuck off, bitch. If anything, I'll get shot. The cops will have to kill me, they want me," beating his chest and barking, heading into the bathroom with her razors. "I ain't going to jail, baby. Ha 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 ha." "You broke my fucking arm." "Yep." "You would do this to a girl? You would do this to me? After my husband died? I wasn't thinking straight." "Don't give me that bullshit." "I didn't hurt you. I was just kidding. I didn't even do anything." He leaned out the bathroom with his face lathered in soap. "It takes one to know one, baby," rubbing the suds around to get his neck. "You were gonna kill me." Back into the bathroom. She yelled in frustration, which turned into an angry growl from the pain in her broken arm. She started sobbing, kicking back and forth in the rug. He turned on the faucet and started singing. "Love me 2 times, I'm gone away," singing the piano riffs. She yelled out again. "What do you want? You want money? You want sex? Just tell me what you want." "You have money." "Yeah, I have access to my dad's bank account. He owns a bunch of hotels in Las Vegas." He just laughed, loud and boisterous. "I can get you as much money as you..." He laughed even louder, and then strained like he couldn't catch his breath, smacking his palm on the mirror. "Okay, fine. But you think I'm good-looking, right?" He actually managed to laugh harder, scratchy and high-pitched like some kind of half-witted rooster. "Baby, don't flatter yourself." "Fuck you. Your dick was hard the second you saw me on the side of the road. You like me. Don't fucking lie." "I'm not the one who's lying." "Well, you're gonna kill me anyway. Just keep me around to fuck. What's the point in killing me? I'm 17 years old. I can't hurt you. You're just gonna get rid of this tight little teenage pussy when she's telling you she wants it?" "You ain't 17, baby." "My pussy's good, though. Tell me it doesn't get your big, fat cock hard just thinking about squeezing into this wet little pink pussy." There was no answer for a second. "See? You want it right fucking now." "Bitch, I'm shaving." "And I don't need your help getting my cock hard." He laughed. "I can do it my damn self." She kicked around in the rug some more, trying to get free. "I'll do whatever you want. You can use me for sex. I don't care. If you just let me live, I'll do whatever you want. I'll be a good girl. You already know I'm good in bed. I'll owe you my life. I know it sounds fucking crazy, but I'll do anything. If you just let me live, please, I'll be good." I'll do whatever you say. Just tell me what to do. I'll help you get girls." He leaned back out the bathroom with half of his face shaved. "You think I haven't heard this shit before?" She just grumbled. "And they were prettier than you. I didn't find them on the side of the road, babe." She screamed in frustration. "Look at you. You're trying to get loose right now." Both of her shoulders were out of the sheet now, and it was mostly loose on the ground. "I'm supposed to believe anything you fucking say?" He came over and acted like he might kick her, so she closed her eyes and braced herself. He took the laces out of his boots and started tying the sheet around her ankles and arms. "You're over here making all this goddamn noise, thrashing around. Think I don't know what you're doing?" Yanking the laces tight. She spit in his face. He frowned at first, but then just wiped it off and laughed. "You're a dirty girl," like it was something to admire. "You're gonna burn in hell," she told him. "Keep warm there without me," she growled as he finished tying her up. But when he got up to go finish shaving, she changed her tone. "Hey, wait." "Fuck you," heading into the bathroom. She sighed but kept trying. "Can you please just—" "Nope." "But my arm—" He didn't say anything, just turned the faucet back on. "Can you just—" "Love me 2 times, babe. I'm gone away. Dun, 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 dun." She started to cry. Not howl and moan, but just cry pitifully. She heard the faucet go off and sniffled. "Please?" She tried again. "Is there something you can do? Sometimes you can just pop it back into place, right?" She didn't hear him doing anything. "I remember when I was little, my brother fell out of a tree and broke his arm. When we got home, my dad just popped it back into place and—" He stepped out of the bathroom, drying his hands, still with half a beard. "It still hurt," she rambled on, "but he could move it again. It swelled up a bunch, but this pain in my shoulder, it's making me dizzy. I'm getting nauseous. I think I might start throwing up if—" "Shut up," he said, kneeling next to her. "I might start crying from the pain. I'm trying to be a good girl, but the fucking pain. I don't know how much longer I can—" "Shut up. Which fucking arm is it?" "The right one. I mean, yeah, the right." "This one?" "Yeah," she grimaced. "Okay, sit still." "Ow! God damn it!" "I said sit still," putting his knee across her chest to hold her steady. "Be careful," she pleaded. "Please, I'm trusting you. I've never had my arm broke before." "Quit squirming and sit still," telling a girl wrapped in a sheet and tied up to sit still. He finally got a good grip on her and forced the arm back towards the shoulder socket. She screamed, then bit down on his forearm, tearing at him like a dog. He screamed back at her, then slammed the bone of his palm into her temple until she went limp. He checked the bleeding bite marks on his arm, wiped it on his pants, shaking his head, then went back into the bathroom to finish shaving. Chapter 2.1. They were driving along the highway at night. This time he had a gun in his hand. This time she was tied up and laying across the back seat. The music played. He pounded a beer, holding a cigarette in the same hand, tossed the empty can back at her and took a drag. She tried to kick at the can with her knee. The headlights beamed across the road, the desert, alien rock formations stretching up into the sky, tall winding roads, flat carved mountains with layers of different rock cut into them. "Why haven't you just killed me yet?" she asked. He cracked open another beer, dash lights glowing around the killer's profile. He drank about half, spilling some onto his face, down his shirt, set it in the cup holder and grabbed his gun, aimed it back at her as if to oblige her request. She screamed, "Wait! I'll suck your dick! I'll suck your dick!" He didn't shoot, just kept aimed at her head. "I didn't even suck your dick before. You have no idea some of the things a filthy little whore like me can do." He pulled the gun back. "Tell me about it." "You're fucking pathetic," she said. "That's all it takes and you don't shoot me?" "Fuck you, bitch. Only reason I don't shoot is 'cause I don't want to hit the gas tank." She rolled her eyes. "So what are you going to do then?" You're just going to take me somewhere and leave me? You don't have the balls to kill me. Or you're in love with me." He chuckled and glanced at her in the rearview mirror. She looked up and could see just his eyes. "Oh, I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to fuck that tight little pink pussy one more time." She growled at him and thrashed around. "Maybe 2 more times. And I want you alive, to make sure it's warm and wet." He started laughing to himself. "You disgusting piece of shit. And I like the way you fight me back." She kicked at the back of his seat. He bellowed loud and let out a raucous yell, pounded another beer and threw it out the window. "Yeah, baby. Get it all sweaty and ready for me." "You evil, filthy fucking," says the bitch who was gonna kill me. She growled and shrieked at him, kicking wildly at the seat. After a while, he stopped egging her on, so she stopped fighting back, for now, just lied there panting, catching her breath from the effort. "How many people you killed?" he asked her. "Or should I say men?" "Fuck you." "Or was that car crash your first one?" "Fuck you. How many people have you killed?" 27, he said decisively, like laying down a winning hand at cards. She didn't say anything. He just let there be silence, watching the road. "So that was your first one?" he asked again. She suddenly felt things slipping away, her power, her energy. She had always been the one in control, even the first time, when she was scared and didn't know what she was doing. She still knew she was in control. She knew there was a way out. But this time she'd messed up. She got too confident, or she thought that men were all so easy, that she could just charm them all, that they were all so easily under her power. She had this one in her power. That was what made it so frustrating. She had him, and then she was toying with him, and he got the better of her, just because he was bigger, and because he was ready. She never anticipated that someone might be ready for her. She was in someone else's power now. She felt the wheels spinning, the time ticking to an end, the inevitable, the same way she did when it was her, but this time it was the other way around. She felt the years, the time, the grit, the depth of murder and evil. She knew it well enough, but now she saw it from the other side. Now she saw the pain and the inching inevitability, the empty suffering, the withering away inside until there was nothing left but for someone else to take that last bit of light away. "How many people have you really killed?" she wanted to know. He paused. 9. "I've killed 5. They didn't say anything else for a little while. The car filled with smoke. The cool, dry air filtered in. "The last guy," she said, "well, he was dead before the car crashed. I don't know. I was on cocaine. I wasn't thinking right. I wasn't even thinking how the car would lose control and I might die too. It didn't even cross my mind. I thought somehow I could control it, or keep driving, or I don't even know what I thought." "So who was the guy?" "Just some guy. Not my fucking husband, that's for sure." "A ride?" "A ride. He bought me things. We fucked. We traveled together for a while. And then I just got tired of him." "And then you just killed him?" "Yeah," she said nonchalantly. He just drove. "And what about you?" she said. "You just get tired of those other 9 people too?" He shrugged. "Maybe. Some deserved it, so I gave it to 'em. Others were just kind of in the way." "In the way of you getting away?" "That's about right. Or getting what you want." "I don't have to tell you how it is, sweetheart." They drove a while longer. "And now I'm in the way," she said. He glanced behind at her. "You'd kill me if I let you live. You'd fucking try." Then he laughed, like he might enjoy it anyway. "You could just let me walk away. You could leave me here. I don't care." Meaning the middle of nowhere. "Leave you here?" "Yeah." "So you can get another ride, heal up, come back and kill me?" He laughed. "No way in hell." "How the fuck would I ever find you again? I don't even know your real name. I don't even know your fake name. Did you even tell me a name?" You want it bad enough, you'd find me. I wouldn't go to the police either. How could I? Tell them about the psycho who knows I'm a fucking psycho too? It might work if I play it up, but still, I wouldn't. Same as you. It takes one to know one, right? Whatever little plans you're thinking about, just forget it, darling. You're getting one more good fuck, and then he made a slicing noise as he ran his thumb across his neck. Off with your head, my pretty, in a shrill, sarcastic voice. Then he started laughing in a high-pitched witch's cackle. She started screaming and kicking, so he laughed harder, turned up the music and laughed louder to drown her out. She kicked and screamed, trying to kill him with volume and the intensity of her hatred for him. He was barely going the speed limit, but with all the windows down, passed by a cop on the side of the road, parked behind a billboard, and he heard the howling man and the woman shrieking and flailing. He started the car and turned out onto the road. He was still laughing demonically, head tossed back, eyes wild on the highway, when he saw the car headlights behind him suddenly come on and start down the road. She was still screaming and kicking. He was looking nervous now, though his mouth was hanging open like a fool. The headlights were closing in fast. He was getting nervous, checking the speedometer. He wasn't speeding. What the fuck? Talking to himself, hitting the gas to try and pull away from whoever the fuck it was. Oh shit! Turning over his shoulder to yell at her. Shut up! Shut up! He told her. Stop kicking! Punching at her legs. Fuck you! She screamed. It's the cops! He told her. And for a second she shut up and froze, actually hunched lower, afraid they'd see her. Lights flashing into the cab. Then it hit her how absurd her reaction was. Then it hit her again how neither was a great option, but any chance she could get she was going to take. So she started kicking and screaming even louder. Fucking stop! We'll both go to fucking jail! You'll go to fucking jail! Stop! Untie me! No, just lie down. Untie me and we won't go to jail. I'll play it cool. I promise. The sirens were screaming at the back of the car now. He had to make a choice. Pull over or run. Lie down or I'll shoot you both. I have to fucking pull over now. Shit. I thought they'd never take you alive, you fucking pussy. You remember that shit, huh? You're gonna fucking pull over now? Fuck you, cunt. Untie me. Lie down and pretend you're sleeping. Untie me and I'll pretend I'm anything. There's no time. Just relax. Just fucking relax. Talking to himself as he pulled over to the side of the road. If I play along, you're gonna untie me. Stay quiet. The cop's pulling up. He had a headache. The lights were so fucking bright. His belly was so full of beer and not much else. Pussy. The lights kept flashing at him, eyes burning red from the smoke. Glancing at the passenger seat, he saw all the beer cans and shoved them under the seat. He unbuttoned the top of his shirt, adjusted the gun under his arm where it was out of view, but he could still reach it easily. Is he coming? She said. Shut your fucking cunt hole, you dumb cunt. How many times do I have to tell you? He leaned his arm up on the window, cleared his throat and smelled his breath, saw the cop get out of his car and start walking towards them. And I'm just supposed to pretend I'm sleeping? Just shut up and don't move. He won't even notice you. It's a he? Shut up. Hello there, the officer said with a weird inflection, approaching the car. How are you tonight? Oh, I'm just swell, officer, with a grin. Wasn't speeding, was I? Could have sworn I was watching my speed. This old rig can't get going too fast anyhow. You were going a few over, shining his light around and into the back seat. Well, a few over isn't anything, right? But he didn't seem too interested in the driver's story. Hello, miss, he said, shining his light into the girl's eyes. And how are you tonight? I'm fine, she said slowly, like she didn't even know what those words meant anymore, squinting into the light, trying gingerly to sit up, or at least move her face out of the direct line of the light. She's just resting back there. We had a long drive, he tried to explain. The lady can speak for herself, the cop said. Are you tied up? He noticed. glancing between the two of them and then pulling his gun and aiming it at the driver. The man tried to make a move for his own gun, but wasn't quick enough. He wasn't watching the cop. He was glaring at the bitch in the back seat, urging her not to say anything dumb. So now he just had to put his hands in the air like a bitch and hope he didn't get shot. "Hands where I can see 'em." "Good, just like that," the officer said, reaching for the door handle, keeping his gun aimed at him. "Come on out of the car. Nice and slow." "No, officer," the girl said. "Please." "It's okay, miss. I'll get you out of there as soon as—" "No, officer, I'm fine." "Just sit tight, miss." "Please, Mr. Officer. It's just a sex thing." He stopped with his hand on the door when he heard this, not sure if he heard right. "He's my boyfriend," she went on. "It's a fetish. I want to be tied up." The officer's posture changed. He didn't exactly relax, but he did seem a bit disarmed all of a sudden. He looked between the two. The driver just grinned nervously, keeping his hands in the air. "Excuse me, miss?" he said. It's a fetish. It turns me on, sexually, to feel vulnerable like this." The cop actually started to lower his gun. "I'm so sorry," she giggled. "It's really embarrassing. I never would have thought Oh dear, people shouldn't see us like this. Oh, Jim," she said, hiding her face. "I'm so sorry." "No, Linda," he said after a slight stumble. "I'm the one who should apologize. I should have been driving steadier. I guess I was well, I couldn't wait to get you home," grinning at the cop. "You can understand." The cop lowered his head in embarrassment, put his gun away. "Never heard a story quite like that one. Chuckling to himself and grinding his toe into the dirt. "When I saw you drive by, I gotta say, I can't even recall if you were speeding. I just heard hollering and carrying on. Damn, I had no idea. Oh dear. Oh, Jim, I'm so embarrassed." The man they called Jim chuckled heartily, although quite sarcastic. "She's a wild one," in a low voice, winking at the cop. The cop lowered his head again and laughed a little, took a quick glance again at the girl. "Well, I guess I should really apologize. I feel like such a square overreacting like that." "Not a problem, sir," said Jim. "You sure you're okay back there, miss? I know y'all are just having fun, but it don't look too comfortable." "If I don't die of embarrassment, I'll be fine. Maybe you should let me up front now, Jim. I don't even know if I can, anymore. Oh, I'm so embarrassed." "Oh, come on, Linda. Be a sport," Jim said. "We came this far. We had a little scare, but we can still have our fun," reaching back to pet her head, which he made to look much gentler than it was. "Oh, please, Jim," pouting and laying her cheek in his palm. "Just untie me and let me up front." "Linda," he said with a big grin and a sarcastic family sitcom kind of enthusiasm about his scolding. "I think it'd be a lot safer," the cop said. "See, honey," she said, "let's just play it safe tonight. I've had enough excitement." The man they called Jim grinned real big and stared out at the road. "Linda." "I don't mean to spoil your fun, but I'd feel a lot better if she got up front and buckled up," the cop said. "In fact, I wouldn't be doing my job if I let you drive off with her in that condition. That's not safe in case something happens on the road." "Yeah, Jim," the woman they called Linda said. He just grinned and patted the wheel. "Would you mind getting started with those knots, officer? My hands are a little shaky after this whole ordeal," the man said. "I might need to stretch my legs and have a cigarette." As he leaned to show the officer his shaky hands, Linda saw the gun he had under his shirt. "Oh, Jim," she scolded. "You know I'm not wearing anything under this. Please," under her breath like she was so embarrassed. "Please just do it yourself. No offense, Mr. Officer." "None taken," he said, took a step back and folded his arms, waiting. "Sir, I'll leave it to you." He turned his back to the officer to give his girlfriend Linda the iciest, blackest, most hellish stare. and she smiled back at her boyfriend with the sweetest, most loving, innocent smile. Chapter 3.1. They were driving again. She was in the passenger seat, wrapped in the bedsheet, but untied. He was steering with his right hand, aiming a gun across at her with his left. "Do you have a shirt or something I can put on?" she asked, tugging at the bedsheets, rubbing her shoulder, nursing her hand. "A t-shirt and some boxer shorts. That's all I ask of my loving boyfriend." "Shut the fuck up. I'm not giving you any of my shit." She rolled her eyes and let out a sigh. "You should be thanking me, asshole," she added. "You could easily be in jail right now. Maybe even shot." "Shut up. You know I didn't have to save your ass, too. You know how easily I could be sitting at a police station making those assholes believe some bullshit story? How this man abducted me from my hotel," changing to a different voice, a different person again, sobbing like she was telling the police for the first time right now. "He was too strong for me. I knew I shouldn't have been traveling alone. I screamed and I screamed." "Yeah, you screamed all right." Back to this other person, the cold bitch in the car, the woman they called Linda. "Yeah, you're not a bad fuck," she snickered, "but you're dumber than shit. The two must go together." He waved the gun at her to show her, reminding her how easily he could kill her. But she didn't seem to care. "And your idea was for me to just shut up and be asleep? You saw where that got you, right? A cop aiming a gun at you." "Fuck you. I would have fucking shot him." "Bullshit. You fucking panicked. You froze up like a bitch. I saved your ass. You're the fucking problem, bitch, not the solution. I'm the reason you're fucking alive. And free," she emphasized, and then just stared at him for what she wanted to hear. "Keep fucking still over there or I'll fucking shoot." "Thank you, Linda," she said sarcastically, on his behalf. He took his hand off the wheel to find a cigarette, drove with the gun hand, slipping a little on the road. She reached over and took the wheel to steady it. "Hands off, bitch!" He slapped her arm away. "Ow, fuck. You're lucky that's my good arm." "Don't fucking grab the wheel, cunt." "I'm trying to help. You were swerving." "Yeah? Like you helped the last guy?" She frowned but decided to just cross her arms and sit there. "You want to help?" he said. She turned to him with a mean look, but said in a straight voice, "I want to help, but I don't want to end up dying anyway." He didn't answer right away. "Just light me a cigarette." She looked where he was reaching before and found his cigarettes, grabbed one and tried to put it in his mouth. But when she tried to get anywhere near him, he shoved her back into her seat. "Light the damn cigarette in your own fucking mouth and hand it to me." She wanted to argue with him, but resisted the urge and just did what he said. "You couldn't do that yourself?" "Remind me how you did the last guy." She thought about that and just shrugged. "Can I have one?" "Fine, if it'll shut you up for a minute." They sat and smoked for a while. "So you haven't killed me yet," she said. "That means you're not going to?" He didn't say. "You think I'm useful, though?" He did, but the same things that made her useful made her a liability. "And you think I'm a sexy bitch." He turned to look at her, and then laughed loud and boisterous, like he was on stage and the back row had to hear him. "Oh, Linda," brandishing the gun at her. "Have you ever let one of your victims live this long?" He glared at her like this offended him. "I'm not some stalker or serial killer. I don't pick victims." "So what do you do?" "I don't know. I just take what I want." "You take lives?" "If I want 'em. Sometimes they're just in the way. Sometimes it's just somebody. Anyone. It could be anyone." Trying to seem dramatic or aloof, but just making excuses. "It's just a hunt?" "Sometimes. A game? Something like that. And then it all goes black. And then nothing else matters. Except putting out the light." He turned and looked at her, smoking there in the passenger seat of a stolen car, naked except for a bedsheet, broken arm, and a stab wound in her hand. Must have been surviving on adrenaline, cocaine, and shock. Just got raped, tried to kill him, saved his life, killed another man in a car crash barely longer ago than they met. Why? She said, confused, looking around. Why are we slowing down? He was still just staring at her, but not quite like he wanted to kill her, although not like he wanted to let her live either. Why are we pulling over? He stopped on the side of the road and they just sat there, staring at each other for a few seconds. She reached for the door handle and thought to run. Nuh-uh, baby, he said, reaching across to hold the door shut, jamming the gun into the side of her head. Okay, just fucking do it then. I can't stand all this. It's driving me crazy. Just fucking kill me. Just kill me. Just get it over with. I can't live every fucking second trying to convince you to let me live, but knowing you're just gonna get pissed and fucking... Hey, what do you... Oh... He was kissing her neck, her chest. Jim, she sighed, putting her hands in his hair. He kissed her broken shoulder and she let go of the sheet and let it fall off. I love you, baby, he said into her neck. Oh, Jim. We have each other, baby. We have each other. Oh, Jim, thank you. Thank you so much, cradling his head, kissing him through his hair. You can call me Linda, Jim. You can call me Linda if you like it. I'll be Linda for you. We have each other, Linda, kissing her and sobbing into her chest. Oh, Jim, thank you so much. I'll be so good to you. I promise, gripping him as tight as she could. I'll be so good to you. I'll be your Linda, Jim. I'll be anything you want me. They held each other there on the side of the road, in the pitch black and the wind and the rain, the storms of their minds, telling each other things that weren't true, that only meant something in another life, a life they only wished they had. Chapter 4.1, April 2nd, 1969, Cortez, Colorado, United States of America. He posed there beside a pickup truck, filling it with gas, sunglasses on, arm tossed back against the bed, chest puffed, hips thrust out. This was part of his charm, maybe. He thought he was a superhero or an out-of-work movie star. He thought it was what got him laid. Mostly it was what got him in trouble. Hey, Jim, Linda called out, waving at him across the parking lot and dragging along another young girl with her. Jim stood up straight and grinned wide. Jim! Yeah, baby, calling out to her, because who didn't want to call out to two beautiful girls? Guess what? She said, coming over to him with a big smile herself. On one hand, a long white glove with lace at the ends, fabric cut off for the thumb and two fingers, and on the other hand, a smiling but awkward-looking hippie girl. Tell me, Jim said, rubbing his hands together. I can't wait to find out, taking off his sunglasses to look at the girl, who blushed and looked away. Coral just showed me how to steal sodas out of the machine, shoving one into his chest. We got you a root beer. I hate root beer, he said. Well, too bad. I got orange and she got a Coke. They were both laughing. And you can't steal two of the same. See, the way it works, the next person who pays for a Coke on that machine ain't getting shit. They both laughed again. They just gonna load it up for Coral and me to steal from again. Well, how do you do, Cora? I'm the Jim you've heard so much about, flattering himself, reaching out to take her hand. Coral, she corrected him, smiling at his strange personality. Linda slapped his hand away and grabbed the girl's hand in her own. Her name is Coral, not Cora, like the ocean. Oh, Coral, he said, resisting the urge to roll his eyes. I can't remember the last time I went swimming in the ocean, reaching for her again, like he was trying to dive in between her tits. Linda shoved her way between them. She's into girls, Jim, so back off, messing with his hair, and then turning to shoot a mischievous grin at the girl. Maybe if you're lucky, I'll tell you about it. Coral laughed. You could let me watch, he suggested, grinning at the two of them. Coral laughed again, giving him eyes that said she might not just be into girls. but then was dragged past by Linda, holding her hand and taking her to the tailgate, where they hopped up and sat, swinging their legs, drinking their sodas. Jim came over and knelt down between them, crossed his arms over one of each of their legs, rested his chin on his arms, and looked up at them. "You two ladies are going to let me go thirsty while you enjoy those cold, delicious refreshments?" "You got a root beer," Linda told him, playfully pushing at his head. He just rocked it to one side and then back. "You mean this?" holding it up. "Rancid, milky, disgusting, curdled." Coral started laughing. "Frothy, puke water," as he slammed it on the ground, breaking the bottle. Linda didn't flinch. Coral jumped. Jim squeezed her leg a little, smiling up at her, still holding the end of the broken bottle. "Jim, you asshole," Linda said. "We stole that for you." Coral laughed. "We totally almost got caught. Actually, we did, but it was a guy, so," laughing together with Coral, "all we did was pretend we were so sorry," making a little girl's voice, "and he just left us alone." "You act like I can't have a sip. You know orange soda is my favorite." "Since when?" "Since Coral came into my life and made me so thirsty," giving her eyes and petting her leg with his finger. "Oh my God, Jim, you're such a dog," Linda said, shoving his head again. "I want to be your dog, baby." Ha 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 ha. Coral laughed too, trying to hide her smile. "Cool off, you fucking dog. Here," Linda said, tipping her bottle of orange soda at him. He drank what he didn't spill, sucking and slurping and making the girl laugh, even making his Linda smile. "Happy now?" Linda said. "Your favorite." "You know," to Coral, "my real favorite is to mix the orange with the Coke and drink 'em together." She just laughed at him and covered her mouth. "Why don't you give me a little taste of what you got too, baby?" She laughed real hard, then looked over to Linda, who just smiled and rolled her eyes. So she tipped her bottle into his mouth too, laughing and spilling it on him. He grinned at her, slurping sexually, making a mess. "You're fucking terrible," Linda said, splashing him with the rest of her drink so that he fell back and they all just laughed at him. Oh. Coral was naked on her back in a hotel room bed, Linda's face between her legs, moaning like a mouse. Linda's dress was pulled down to her waist, but the rest of her was still covered up. Jim shoved the door open with his butt and came sauntering in, sunglasses at night, a six-pack in one hand, and a paper bag with a bottle and a couple packs of cigarettes under his arm. Coral gasped and sat up straight, grabbed a pillow and put it in front of her. The sheets were all tucked in tight, lights on. "Oh me, oh my," Jim said, laughing to himself, nodding exaggerated with his big stupid grin. "Jim," Linda scolded, "shut the door," climbing up on the bed and reaching tenderly for Coral's arm. "He plays nice," she assured her, "and he'll just mind his own business if you tell him. Right, Jim?" "Mm-hmm. I'm a good boy," taking off his shirt and whipping it around, cracking a beer open. Coral didn't seem too reassured. "Mind your manners and leave us alone," Linda said. "I'm a good boy." "Trust me," Linda said, turning back to Coral. "I wouldn't still be riding with him if he wasn't cool. And," she shrugged, grinned and made a silly smug face, "he listens to me." "I'm a good boy," tossing himself onto the bed as he turned on the TV, spilling beer everywhere. "He loves me," Linda whispered to Coral, and they both giggled. But Jim just said, "You know I love you, Linda," in that obnoxious, sarcastic sitcom voice that may or may not have existed in 1969. He may have invented it. Linda smiled at Coral. "Just relax. He's not even there," making some frivolous motion with her hand in his direction, then taking off her bra and pulling her dress all the way down. "We were having fun before, weren't we?" she reminded her, before he interrupted, balling up her dress and tossing it at him. He caught it and hugged it like a precious thing. Like it was delicious, breathing it in. He clutched the dress and just watched the two of them, kissing and sucking and writhing, gripping the sheets, gripping each other. He turned the TV volume off to listen to them, sat up and pounded the rest of his beer, made a loud ah and shook his face, letting his loose lips make a flapping noise. He threw the can across the room and grabbed another, drank it, spilled it, lit a cigarette and sat back down to watch, leaning forward on his knees, making faces, noises, sound effects, slapping himself in the face, ashing the cigarette in the bed, pulling at his own hair and stretching his eyes open wide. Eventually, he started talking to them, egging them on. Every once in a while, Linda turned to him and shook her head, but eventually noticed that Coral was looking at him too, and not shyly. Linda kissed her way up her stomach. Jim had taken off his belt and was howling, swinging the belt around and slapping at the bed like a propeller, hair flying around, bouncing around on the bed on his knees. "You like him?" Linda asked. Coral looked over and smiled at his antics. Even though he wasn't the best-looking guy in the world, he did have some natural charm. Until you got to know him better anyway. Then that same stuff you found charming starts grating on your nerves. She nodded at Linda's question, though. "You lying bitch," she said, running her teeth up her neck, breathing hot and heavy on her, making the girl moan. "You said you were only into girls." Coral just laughed a little. "I'm sorry." "Well," Linda shrugged, "you'll make it up to me," climbing further up till she was sitting on her chest, holding her face in both hands. Jim was laughing, hopping around on one foot to get his pants off. "I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy," telling himself. "I'm a bad boy," in a different voice, starting to bark like a ridiculous overfed hound. Linda sat on the girl's face with her underwear on and grinded her pussy into the girl's mouth anyway. Coral did her best, not really complaining, just making noises. Jim came up behind them, naked except his boots, spinning a knife in his palm. "Get those fucking," cut the sides of Linda's underwear. "Panties off," yanked them out her ass. He jumped up on the bed, kneeling over Coral's tits to fuck Linda with the girl's face underneath. Jim was laughing, roaring, pounding himself on the chest. Linda was yelling and cussing, like she did when she fucked a man. The girl was struggling for breath. After a while, Jim switched and started fucking the hippie girl. She screamed worse than Linda. Linda screamed like she was fighting back, like she was enjoying it. This girl screamed like there was a burglar in the house and she hoped someone heard her and did something about it. Linda drowned her out with her pussy. Jim grabbed Linda by the hair to pull her head back and kiss her. "Linda, you filthy hoe. You fucking love me. Baby, I fucking love you. You sick motherfucker. Give me some of that pussy, baby. Hell with this bitch," slapping Coral hard and making her scream. "I need some of my Linda wetting me down. Squeezing me tight," baring his teeth at her. "Keep fucking this bitch," she said, grabbing her by the hair and starting to turn her around, shoving the girl's ass towards Jim. Jim flickered his tongue at Linda. She reached her hand out to him as she laid on her back, but not far enough for him to touch. Linda laid there holding the dumb hippie bitch with the stupid name's hair to keep her face in her puss. Jim fucked her from behind like a maniac, slapping her ass and banging her like a doll, like an animal fucks, getting off balance because his motor skills are only telling him to keep smashing. Linda held the girl's hair, legs spread, knees up, heels on the bed, other hand behind her head, just relaxing, grinning at the girl, watching her try. She reached over the girl's head, towards Jim, palm open. He reached out and grabbed her hand, ran his fingers across her skin. She slapped at him and shook her head, made her fingers into a gun, aimed it at him, firing it directly at his face over and over, and then at the girl's head. He made a face like, "Oh," still fucking, nodding at her, but then got real serious, shaking his head no. Her face got real angry, took a deep breath and nodded her head yes, beckoning for the gun. Jim kept shaking his head no, making pouty lips, tossed his head around, making excuses with his gestures, mouthing words but not saying them. She got more insistent in her beckoning, gripping tighter at the girl's hair, jerking her around and making her scream louder. Come on, baby. Let's keep her. Can we keep her? Jim pleaded. Give me the fucking gun, she said plainly. No, baby. I like her. Let's just keep her. Just for a little while. Talking about her like she's a stray dog they picked up. You fucking like her? Gripping her tighter, smothering her. What's that supposed to mean? I thought you loved me. I do love you, baby. She ain't Linda, but she's nice. Let's just keep her for a little while. Don't you like her too? Hell no. She's an annoying little, ain't got a thought of her own, stupid fucking young ass hoe who I only picked up in the first place for a free soda. Oh, baby. You just like her 'cause her pussy's so tight. Oh, baby. You got the best pussy. Fuck you. Arguing with this bitch getting fucked in between them. Baby, I can barely get inside. Your pussy's so tight. You're so good, baby. Fuck you. Don't fucking sweet talk me, asshole. I want you right now. Linda, baby, give it to me right now. I already asked you once. Now I'm begging you. Linda. Fuck you. Linda, baby, I need you. Give me the gun. Give it to me, baby. Linda, give me that good love. Give me that sweet, sweet pussy, baby. Lips curling as he talked to her. Give me the fucking gun. Here, baby. Reaching into his boot. Kill the bitch. You're the only one for me, baby. Handing her the gun. It's just you and me, baby. I love you, baby. I love you. Ah! He shouted, falling back as she put the gun to the girl's head, and he realized her fragile little skull was not going to stop the bullet before it got to him, too. Bang! So that was your first time? She said, drawing on his chest with her finger, using her scarred and partially lame hand, lying with her head on his shoulder. Yeah, baby, lying with both hands behind his head, recounting a story. I caught her with my best friend, and I just did 'em both right there. Oh, Jim, pressing herself closer to him. I had a feeling what I was walking into, so I had the gun on me. I guess I kind of talked myself into the idea on the drive there, and then when I saw him together, his body shuddered slightly. Oh, Jim, holding him, you can tell me. I'm your Linda, Jim. You can tell me anything. I would never hurt you. I heard a voice, he said strangely, like pleasure. And when I opened the door, he paused, but her touch encouraged him to go on. In the dark hotel room, smoke wafting up in the beams of light through the window, sheets wet with beer and blood and sweat and cum, the dead hippie girl on the other bed, brains and whatever else used to be on the inside of her now splattered all over the walls, reworking a canvas that used to be some kind of landscape, but now it was some abstract painting, some Jackson Pollock, but for real. I saw her bucking and bouncing, and then she turned, holding his hand up in the air, turning it slowly in the dim light, and I saw her beautiful body, the love of my life, my only happiness, defiled right in front of me. My best friend, he trailed off. You had every right. You had every right to kill him. The sorrow. It's this emptiness inside me that everything since has had to echo through. That's beautiful, Jim, she lied. You're beautiful, baby. But it's so sad. You're not empty, Jim. You have me. You have your Linda. I shot her first. It makes me so mad. It hurts me so much. Oh, Jim. I wasn't even thinking. I'd never hurt you. I'd never hurt you. You know that. And then I shot him, charging towards the bed, 5, 6 times, sitting up and jabbing his fingers in the air like a gun. And then I turned to her. He held his hand up to the light again, held it there, but then let it drop. Didn't say anything for a while. Jim? Yeah, baby. Was she your Linda? He didn't say anything at first. but then he chuckled a little. Nah, baby, you're my Linda, hugging her with one arm and kissing the top of her head. She sighed lovingly and kissed him back, kissed him all over his face as many times and as fast as she could, till she was out of breath, hugged him tight. So what about you, baby? What was your first? She thought about it for a while. You really want to know? Just don't make me jealous, baby. No, I didn't love him. You don't love me either. Don't say that, Jim, hugging him. He laughed a little, then slowly got louder and louder. Tell me about you first, baby. You promise you're not mad? He laughed again. I'm not mad. Long and drawn out, like he was just joking all along, but also like a father about to hit his child, trying to trick him so he doesn't see it coming. Well, she said, I was pretty young. I was only 14 years old. He chuckled. 14 is a grown woman sometimes. Well, not this time, 'cause I was just a stupid kid. I was down by this little creek, off a walking path near my house. I was there with a boy from my class. Of course you were, you little devil. We were just tossing rocks in the water. I think we liked each other, but when we weren't playing like a couple of kids, we didn't know what to do. We sat by each other and fidgeted. I tried to be really close to him. I thought he would just get the hint. So we were down there together, and I remember he got real quiet for a long time. I thought he was mad about something. Then out of nowhere, he just grabbed me. Like, just grabbed, gripping his arm right now. He didn't take my hand or put his arm around me. Don't get me worked up now, Linda. He didn't even try to kiss me. I always pictured these things were so romantic. He touched her cheek gently with the back of his finger. But he just grabbed me, started touching me all over. If I could find the little shit now, reaching out and gripping at the air. Fist shaking, he was clenching so tight. He was hurting me, just grabbing and trying to pull my clothes off. I tried to push him off, but I was just a girl. I wasn't strong. I started screaming, and then he got really mad. She gripped at him tight again, like a girl at a scary movie. Baby, I'll tear him apart. I'll rip him limb from limb, sitting up straight to make a fist at some invisible demon. It was so scary. He was my friend. He was just a nice, funny, awkward boy, and I'd never seen anyone get so mad in my life. He was calling me names, telling me how you let Justin Roberts have a piece, how come not me? Which wasn't even true, she lied. Just tell me how you killed this shitty little punk. Well, I had a little brother, but he was kind of a nerdy little kid. My dad was always pissed at him. He tried to get him to play sports and go hunting and do boy things, but since my brother was, just more of a bitch, I guess, I was the one who played sports and went hunting instead. He taught me about camping and guns. Good man. And he gave me a pocket knife. And he told me, if anybody ever tries to hurt you, you take your pocket knife and stab them right here in the liver. And she poked him there, kind of hard. Much harder than her girlish storytelling voice would imply she was capable of. And you twist, grinding her knuckle into his side. And that pain will make anyone stop and give you time to get away. But you killed the little shit, right? Well, first I stabbed him in the liver. And it was really funny, she said innocently, as if it was an entirely different story. Because it was like he didn't even feel it at first. I think he was so shocked, he actually looked around like he didn't know what happened, like something was different, but he didn't know what. Then he looked down at himself, and the look on his face. I got so scared I just pulled the knife out real fast. I couldn't believe what I just did. All I wanted to do was reverse it, just make it not happen. Jim was grinning, chuckling about it, making a motion like he was twisting a knife into someone right now. Then he screamed when he saw all the blood. He got so freaked out, and I was too. All the blood. And then he was screaming at me, reaching for me. I didn't even know what he was trying to do. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he was mad. Maybe he just wanted help. But I was scared too. I wanted help. And honestly, I was mad. So you stabbed the shit out of him. So I started stabbing him. Yeah! Jim shouted, like his team just scored a touchdown. Yeah, baby! I stabbed him and I stabbed him, and he kept coming at me. Stab him again, baby! Stab him again! Like he was seeing it and rooting her on. He was trying to grab the knife, or something. I just kept stabbing at him, stabbing his hands, his arms, his chest. You get him, baby! You get him! Slapping his knee and laughing loudly. I didn't even know I had it in me. You animal! You savage! I was so angry at him. My brain kept saying it's his fault. It's his fault. He made you do this. Don't let him hurt you anymore. Eventually, he wasn't coming at me. He was falling down. He was trying to protect himself. He was screaming at me to stop. But you just kept stabbing him. But I just kept stabbing him, still telling her story like it was a sad one, or maybe just an ironic one, even though he was laughing maniacally, like it was the funniest shit he'd ever heard. He stopped moving, but he was still shaking, so I stabbed his throat. I didn't even do it hard. I just did it like a thing. Like my daddy told me, you put an animal out of its misery by cutting its throat. And then I just heard, like, everything give out. His breath, his life, his blood, his not wanting to say it all. He deserved it for laying hands on my Linda. Then I didn't know what to do. I thought about throwing him in the creek, but I was afraid he'd float down and someone would find him. I never once thought about telling anyone. I was so scared. All I could think was to bury him, but I wasn't going to dig a hole. It'd take me all day. So I just started carrying big rocks and stacking them on him until I couldn't see him anymore. Poor baby, he said, kissing her cheek. It's all better now. I washed off in the water, and then I got in trouble for being wet when I got home, but that was it, closing her eyes and just letting him kiss her face. I was only 14. The next time I did anything like that again was almost 10 years later. You're a good girl, Linda. You were just protecting yourself. They found the body like a day later. It was a big pile of rocks. I'm sure it stuck out. Apparently, a man was walking his dog by the creek, and the dog started going crazy, dug it up. Do you still have the knife? Actually, I do. You're so sentimental, Linda. You always remember the little things. That's why I love you. At first, I buried it in the backyard. I was so scared I'd get caught. I thought they might look through the trash, so I buried it. But then the police decided it must have been some old pedophile man raping boys by the river. That's what they came up with. I thought any day they'd realize how dumb they were and figure it out. But instead, every once in a while I'd hear stories about a guy, like one of those weird loner guys around town would get arrested. He'd always end up back home in a few days, but people would talk how supposedly he was a pedophile, and everyone knew what that meant. That meant it was about the thing at the creek. It was like this thumping in the ground. I'd think it was gone away, and then suddenly it'd be right there, and all I could feel was panic again. Sometimes I thought they were just tricking me. I thought for so long that one day the police would come bursting into the house and take me away. I'd never let 'em take you. After about 2 years, nothing happened. My dad bought me a new knife, but I didn't like it as much, so I went out and dug up the old one. He was pissed I lost it anyway, and then he was so happy when I found it again. And I don't know why, but somehow, my dad being happy I found my knife made me feel completely safe. Like there was no way the police could ever find out, because my dad loved me. He'd never let them. That's right, baby, kissing her forehead. Daddy's here. Daddy'll keep you safe. Oh, Jim, she sighed and hugged him tighter. Daddy's here. Nobody's gonna hurt my Linda. Chapter 5.1 April 12th, 1969. Denver, Colorado, United States of America. Some days it was warm and they slept in the park with the other trash. Sometimes they stayed in hotels, but they were running out of money. He liked to spend it on drugs and steak dinners. She bought clothes, not expensive things, but she bought a cheap dress and left it in a public bathroom after sex. She bought a hat and threw it out the car window to watch it fly off. She bought heavy fake jewelry and hurled it at him during violent arguments. There were a few others they got tired of, took their cash, never used credit, traded cars here and there, never kept the same vehicle for longer than one of them got paranoid and refused to ride in it, walked if they couldn't find a new ride. He was madly in love with her and hated her at the same time, but whenever the negative flared up, she was able to convince him it had nothing to do with her. It wasn't his Linda, and he laughed it off. But she didn't like his laugh. His laugh said, "Just wait." He was plotting to kill her. She knew it. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he was figuring out how to do it, deciding what would be enough to set him off, or just fantasizing about it until he pushed himself over the edge. He forgave her time and time again because he knew there was something else. He knew something she didn't know, but she knew it too. Some nights it was cold, and if they couldn't get a room or a place to sleep, they just slept in the car. Right now, they were both in the back seat. He was stretched out like a big lazy dog, huffing and snoring. She was laying across his chest, holding him for warmth and so she didn't roll off the seat. She saw something out the corner of her eye and jerked her head to see what it was. It was snow on the window. She sat up and looked around. There were little highlights of white along the tree branches, the window sills, building ledges, street lights, just little touches, and a haze in the air, floating and falling in front of her, gray and white. Her heart felt still for just a second. She'd never seen snow before. She wanted to wake him up, but at the same time she wanted this to herself. She just looked around and watched the snow fall, watched it slowly fill itself in where it was only highlights of white before. The windows were starting to fog up. She saw a hint of her own reflection, and suddenly realized she was smiling. She looked down at him and stroked his hair, with no real love in her eyes, although a bit of reflection, introspection, and a slight smile. She gave him a kiss, not to wake him, but with her eyes open, and a look like she was watching him burn, or freeze, buried out in the snow. They were broke down on the side of the road, car spitting smoke, Jim flailing around and kicking the car, Linda screaming at him. "How the fuck do you not know about cars? What kind of a fucking man are you?" "The fuck's that supposed to mean, bitch?" "Don't just kick it. That's not gonna do anything." "I'm kicking it 'cause it burned me," swinging his arm around wildly, like the pain of being burned was a bunch of bees he could shake off his hand. "You burned yourself on the fucking car, you moron. Don't blame it." He roared and kicked the tire, hurt his toe, then kicked the dirt and fell over. "Get up and do something about the car," she said, covering her face from all the smoke. "Is it going to blow up?" "It's not gonna blow up." "How do you know?" "It's gonna catch fire before it blows up." "Jim!" "Baby, just calm the fuck down. Let me try to figure this out." "Calm down," she shrieked. "Well, you ain't gonna fix the damn car. If anyone, it's me. So calm the fuck down and let me do it." "You're such an idiot," she screamed, stomping off and kicking the dirt. Her dress blew up a little. She shoved it down angrily. "Calm your tits, Linda." "Fuck you." "Linda," he warned in that sarcastic voice. She growled, but then in an even more sarcastic voice, with the odd southern accent she'd put on when he first picked her up. "Whatever you say, Jim." Eyes closed, breathing long and steady. "Linda, baby," he said with a smile, "you don't know shit about shit," taking off his shirt and wrapping it around his hand to go to work under the hood again. "But you sure know how to get my rocks off," popping something off and jumping back from all the steam and smoke, swatting it with his shirt, laughing wildly, glancing over at Linda to see if he could get her attention. "Look out, baby. It's gonna blow! It's gonna blow! He shrieked through his laughter. Linda just sat on the ground with her legs crossed, eyes closed, back to him. After a while of Jim screaming at being burnt, drinking beer, cussing at Linda, and trying to work on a burning hot engine, there came a car shimmering in the distance. You couldn't even hear it yet. She was sitting on the ground, meditating, or something, opened her eyes. Maybe she felt it in the earth first, but she saw it coming now. She stood up without saying anything, didn't turn around at Jim, just started rolling her shoulders around and shaking out her hair. As the car pulled close, she was waving at it, pulling up her dress and hopping around. It slowed and she started running up next to it with a big smile, like a happy golden retriever with its tongue hanging out, like a different person. Jim reached out his arm to stop her from heading to the car. "Wait here, baby," he said. "I'll make sure it's safe," like some stupid superhero. He jogged over to the car, waving, with a big sarcastic nigga grin on his face, a pre-civil rights era thing for context, like, "I hate you too, but I'm a grin in your face anyway if that's what it takes." He waved and leaned in the passenger window to say hello, then moved his foot up and reached into his boot, stood back and fired 2 shots into the car. Bang! Bang! The driver's side window blew out. Red glass shattered onto the highway. He stood, still aiming, leaning his head back and forth, cocking his hips like a gunslinger, a marksman of about 4 feet. He lowered the gun, changed his demeanor, gained a jovial bounce in his step, waving Linda over with a big boyish smile. He jogged around to the driver's side to open the door. A body slumped out. He looked around like a nervous cat, but dragged both men out into the middle of the road and hopped in. Linda came running like he might leave her, glancing over her shoulder with the wind in her hair, eyes blank and staring through the distance, to another life, another place where everything was beautiful and bittersweet, to the horizon they were always raging towards. Jim was in the back of a bowling alley bar, playing a pinball machine, rocking the thing around, slamming it down on the floor to try to make the ball go where he wanted, yelling at it because it wouldn't. "Hey, Jim," Linda called out to him from somewhere on the other side of the room, but he was playing the game and didn't look up. "Jim," coming from behind him and tugging his arm, with a fancy new glove on her hand, this one red, same 3 fingers cut off. "You'll make me fall, baby. Don't make me fall," tugging his arm back. "Jim, I want you to meet Johnny." "Johnny," he said, turning around, angry and confused, then actually had to look up because the man was much bigger than him. "The hell you want, Johnny?" Going back to his game. "Are we getting drinks?" "Just bring me another pitcher, good man. Get whatever you want, baby." "Baby," Johnny said, glancing over at Linda. "Jim, don't be rude." Then to the other man. "That's just what Ma and Pa always called me, 'cause I was the youngest. Jim, I want you to say hello to Johnny. Don't be rude," slapping his arm. He just reached back and batted her away. "Yeah, good to know you, pal," he said over his shoulder. "Johnny, this is my brother Jim I was telling you about. You'll have to excuse him." "What was that?" Spinning around, forgetting about the game. "Did you say something, Linda, baby?" Sizing up this other man like a chew toy, and he seemed to be doing the same, Linda hanging on his arm. "Jimmy, I was telling him about how we grew up on the farm together in Tennessee." Her accent kept getting thicker, like something stabbing him in the chest. "Have you drank too much and forgot? Your eyes blurry again?" "You don't look like no brother of yours," Johnny pointed out. Well, nobody said Mama was a saint, but the men weren't hearing her. "Ain't nobody coming between me and my Linda," Jim said, puffing his chest, although still half the size of the other man. He grabbed Linda by the arm and pulled her away from this new Johnny asshole. "Jimmy, stop it. Be nice," she said. "He's very protective of me," she smiled at Johnny. "Just give us a second," as Jim was dragging her away. He almost dragged her all the way out the building, but the woman they called Linda yanked her arm away before they got outside. "You asshole," Listen to me. He slapped her across the face. She took the slap with a wince and then turned back to Johnny, who was already marching over. But she just smiled and laughed. Oh, we're from the farm, remember? Ain't nothing but foolin'. Then she slapped him back twice as hard, with her gloved hand, and shoved a finger up under his nose. You listen to me. Jim just laughed in her face, kissing at her finger, at her palm where he knew the scar was, turning his cheek and rubbing it against her hand like a kitty cat, but also like inviting another slap. That big dumb idiot over there has a Jaguar convertible in the parking lot. A European convertible fucking sports car. Jim just laughed. He's staying at the fucking Hilton Suites downtown. Who's Hilton Suite, baby? A cheap hooker? Quit playing games, Jim. We can't go on sleeping in cars. It's fucking cold. You're the one wanted to come to Colorado. I told you let's head for the coast. Someplace warm. That's not the point. You think this guy has any real dough? He's just playing you, baby. Don't be a fool. He just wants what he can't have. He wants some of my sweet Linda. Jim, she said, touching his face, we're running out of money. We? Glancing over her shoulder at the big dumb idiot. She wrenched her face up like she was in such pain. Jim, you know I'd never leave you. He just chuckled. Tell me you love me, baby, with a big grin. She just pouted at him. Tell me you fucking love me, looking at her from different angles like he might find the answer there. Jim? You won't even say it as a joke. She sighed and looked into her shoulder. Like the rest of this ain't a fucking joke to you anyway, he said, getting real serious. She gave him a desperate look like she might say something, but swallowed it. It's okay, baby. It's okay, he laughed. Just tell me who it is, moving even closer. It ain't Johnny over there. Jim, I've never been in love. Really? Almost sounding sincere, although there was no reference point. His name, breathing on her neck. I've told you everything, she said, low and like it was to herself, keeping her eyes somewhere on the ground. He just kept his head cocked, examining her, breathing on the side of her face. Then he started laughing. He looked over at Johnny, who was serious to the point of boiling, but the man they called Jim laughed at him anyway. Then he kissed Linda on the cheek, big and wet like a cartoon, and put his arm around her shoulders, tugging her along like a kid sister, heading back to the other man with a big smile on his face. Johnny, he proclaimed, and slapped the man on the shoulder. Fantastic to meet you. My baby sister here was just telling me all about you, slapping her hard on the back and putting on a shitty accent just to make her uncomfortable. Jim was sitting on a big luxurious fluffy bed with pristine white sheets, drinking tiny shots. The mini fridge from the kitchen was unplugged and open on the bed next to him. He had the TV on to some black and white movie he wasn't watching, the radio on playing classical music. He was in a robe waltzing with a bottle of champagne. He was jumping on the bed, robe open, boots on, spilling and drinking the champagne, pretending the bottle was his dick and fucking the air, shaking it up and jizzing suds everywhere, opening another bottle to do it again. He was eating from 2 different carts of food, just digging in with his hands, spitting something he didn't like out onto the floor, shoving something else into his mouth to give that a try. He was lying on the bed, smoking, drinking. He finished 1 bottle and threw it at the radio, which skipped and then turned to static. He started to grimace and twitch, slapped himself in the face, cranked his head like he was trying to tear it off. He started pounding the bed with his fists, growling, shouting, screaming. You fucking whore! Hurling a beer across the room. You goddamn fucking bitch! Picking up the phone and smashing it on the ground with a loud off-pitched tone, trying to tear the phone book in half, but he couldn't, so he just beat it on the table. He paced back and forth across the room, shouting, pulling at his hair, kicking chairs over, kicked the mattress half onto the floor, went over and kicked the radio. Linda! It fell on the floor, managed to tune itself halfway to a station, so he kicked it again until it stopped. Linda, you fucking whore! Eyes wild, staring into some netherworld beyond. The radio stopped. The TV images flickered, but the scene was silent, and for a few seconds he only heard his own panting and breathing. But then there was a bang, a moaning and shouting through the wall. He craned his head like the sound was echoing at him, coming from inside his skull. His jaw hung open, lower teeth bared, eyebrows raised, listening. Oh shit, you big dick motherfucker! Through the walls, more banging. Fuck yeah, Daddy! Fuck yeah! His eyes went off even further. His facial features jumped and twitched. A tiny grin formed in the corners of his mouth. His eyes came close, then far, then somewhere in between but out of focus. He started to laugh, one syllable at a time, tossing his head back, heaving his chest, until he was bellowing with laughter. Then it escalated into the strange witch's cackle he'd unleashed before. He flung open the door wearing just his robe, underwear, and boots, and went to pounding on the door next to his with the butt of his revolver. Linda! Screaming and pounding to drown out the sounds inside until they did stop. But he was so loud he didn't realize and just kept pounding and shouting. Linda! Come out, sister! Sarcastically, like there was nothing to worry about. Oh, Linda! Sissy pants! Little sissy bear! Linda swung the door open wearing the man's shirt, unbuttoned, just holding it closed in the front. She had an angry, evil look on her face, trying to straighten out her hair. Jim, go the fuck away! Why are you making all this racket? You're 10 times louder than us in there. What are you even doing? He shoved the gun into her hand. Go in there and fucking kill him. You don't have to say you love me, baby, but you kill that son of a bitch for me and I'll forgive you. She shoved him into the hall and took a step outside, glancing over her shoulder as she shut the door behind her, then punched him in the chest with the gun. Put this away, she said, shoving it inside his robe. Linda, just wrestling with her to take the gun, but she was trying to give it back. Linda, I can't take it, baby. I can't take it. Jim, just calm the fuck down. It's just to get some money. Not like this, Linda. Jim, stop. How many times have you had me? 19, 36, a million? Like it was irrelevant. She took the gun from him, pulled him closer by his robe and shoved the gun into his stomach. The shirt she was wearing fell open to one side. Didn't I watch you with those other girls? That was different. How? They didn't even have money. They were girls. Who cares? She rolled her eyes and shoved the gun harder and lower into his stomach. I helped you get those girls. I gave them to you. He shrugged, smiled a little bit. Not all of them. She shoved the gun into his underwear and he stood up a little straighter, stopped smiling. I fucked them with you, she said. He could feel the barrel of the gun against his dick, tried to keep a straight face but had to smile anyway, remembering. Jim, she said with a pout, tucking the gun away in his robe and putting her arms around him. Don't be so upset, falling out of the shirt she was wearing, draping her naked body across his chest. He shook his head. No, Linda, just muttering, not making sense, even shaking a little. I'm only doing it to make a little money, a lot of money, for us, she reminded him. It's just for a little while. Maybe only this once if you stopped acting so fucking crazy. He just growled. You're so upset, Jim. Look at you. Cocking her head back and forth to try and meet his eyes, but he wouldn't. He just snarled and looked past her towards the door, like a dog trying to get at the other dog behind you. You're ready to kill somebody. I'll fucking kill him. Jim, messing with his hair. What? Do you love me, Jim? He didn't say anything, knew it was a trick, and just gave her an evil look. If you love me, Jim, you'll trust me, okay?" He continued to growl, but decided to acknowledge her body, put his hands on her, although kept his eyes off her. "Besides," she said, "you know it turns you on," running her finger down his neck to his chest. He tried to keep looking somewhere over her shoulder. "That I'm in there fucking some other man for money," he grit his teeth. "Thinking of my big, strong Jim instead." "Bullshit." "Closing my eyes and imagining your long, thick cock." "Fuck you," reaching for the gun. "Your strong, hard body," feeling his arms and trying to keep him from the gun. "You're such a sweet talker, Linda," more sarcastic than her. "He's wearing a condom anyway," she shrugged, like that meant it wasn't even happening, holding her hand on the gun so he wouldn't aim it at her. "And all I'm thinking about the whole time is how I can't wait to be done with him, so I can be with my real man, my big Jim," with her accent, accentuating the big, "and he can give me what I really want. He can finish me off." He grinned slightly, looking her in the eyes and nodding slowly, then started to chuckle behind closed lips. "Oh, Jim," she rolled her eyes. "Take a shower and go to bed," shoving him back towards his own room. But he grabbed her hand as she put it on his chest and nearly lifted her off the ground, threw her into the wall. "Jim!" she screamed at him, fell down, started to clamber back to her feet, but he aimed the gun at her. Her body flinched instinctively, but her eyes didn't move, because she knew he wouldn't really shoot her, not right now anyway. She slowly started to get back to her feet. He threw a wild, swinging, slapping punch at her, which she ducked, because even though he wouldn't shoot her, she knew damn well he'd punch her. "Jim, stop! Don't do anything stupid! Jim!" she shrieked as he kicked in the door and went charging into the room. The room was dark except the TV, and Johnny was standing there, getting up to see what all the screaming was, standing a few feet from the bed holding the sheets up to cover his crotch. "Fuck you, Johnny!" Jim bellowed, wide-eyed, baring his teeth and firing. "You want a piece of my Linda? You motherfuck! You want a piece of my Linda?" Getting progressively louder and more hoarse. "You piece of shit! You fucking cocksucker! I'll give you some Linda, motherfucker! I'll give you some! Hope it was good! Hope it was good!" Getting off 5 shots and dropping the man before Linda came and tackled him from behind. "Jim, you fucking idiot!" "It's okay, Linda. It's okay." Throwing his arms around her and hugging her. "What in the hell are you? Get off me!" Shoving him off and running over to Johnny. She knelt down next to him, still just wearing an open, billowing shirt. She didn't have to check if the man was alive. She didn't even say his name. She just looked at all the blood. 2 shots in his head, 1 in the neck and 2 in the chest. "Linda, it's okay," he said, lifting her to her feet. "Linda, I love you, baby." She punched him in the chest with both hands. "You fucking idiot! That was our one chance to finally get some real money out of someone, so we don't have to keep from place to place," looking around like someone should hear her if it wasn't him, because he sure as fuck wasn't listening. "We can't just keep... We can't! Jim!" "I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it, baby. Don't blame me for loving you so much." "Jim! Why couldn't you just sit in your expensive-ass room and just... Then collapsed to her knees, crying. "Oh, baby, don't cry," he said. "Linda, don't cry," coming over to hold her. She cried harder and fought his hugs, while he cried and held her tighter, fighting and elbowing him like a cartoon cat with a skunk, trying her best to hurt him but without much real strength after a while. And the more she cried and squirmed, the tighter he held her, the harder he wept, like trying to overwhelm each other with their projected sadness. They were somewhere down the road in the Jaguar with the top down. Her eyes were still wet. He was still drinking. His hair looked more like he'd just fucked than hers. After a long while of not talking, or just listening to the wind from outside, the wind in their hearts, the dust in their head, she said, "Pull over here." He glanced to the side of the road, then again, looking harder. "Why? There's nothing." "Pull over." "There's nothing there. You have to pee?" "Just pull over and fucking fuck me." He turned to her. She glared at him and raised her eyebrow, then looked back out the window at the place where she wanted him to pull over, the edge of a little dirt road, leading past a small irrigation ditch where there were fields of vegetables, couldn't tell what, just leafy lumps above the ground. He swerved off the side of the road and skidded to a stop in the dirt, kicking up dust. The car stopped. The body rocked left and right with the sudden change. He reached for her. She was wearing a dirty dress with another man's bloody shirt over it. She let him grab her. He kissed her neck, wetly, savagely kissed her chest. She just moved her head around to accommodate him, staring blankly somewhere else. "We have each other," he said. "Right, Linda? We have each other." "Yes, Jim," but there was no effort in her voice. "We've made it this far?" "Mm-hmm." "We'll make it, Linda. You and me." "Of course." "I love you, baby." She didn't say anything and just put her hands on his shoulders to push him away. He grabbed her hand, started kissing it, kissing her arm. She opened the door and leaned her weight out, trying to tug him along. "Come on, Jim." "Get back here, baby." "Come on," she said, standing just outside the door now, holding her hand out for him, but just out of reach. "Get back here, you," climbing across the seat. "Not here," she said, and kept moving away as he got closer. "Come on, take me out there," with the first hint of a smile in a long time. He looked out towards the field and laughed boisterously, with that big grin of his, and now she was really smiling too, maybe, twirling her dress around in the breeze. "You can't fuck me in there. We can barely move," she reasoned, but he didn't need convincing and was already jumping out of the car. "Take me out there where you can—" She took a deep breath and let it out with a sigh. "Pick me up and throw me around," like just the words could make her body shudder. He started to laugh, deep and slow, with an evil animal look in his eyes that was maybe sexy, and she was giving him the same look, but hers was definitely sexy. "Come here, baby. I'll pick you up and throw you around." But every step he took towards her, she took one further away, smiling at him, making a game of it, until they were both running. The sun was setting, red and black and pink and purple silhouetting the two figures, coloring in the sounds of their footsteps, their voices. He was chasing her through the field. She was laughing and screaming, holding her clothes so they didn't fall off. He was barking and howling at her, had already caught up, but was just tugging at the ends of her dress as she tried to get away, grabbing her arm just tight enough that she had to pull it out of his grip and keep running. Eventually, she stubbed her toe and fell. "Ow! Fuck!" she said, looking up to him like she desperately needed help. Okay. Game over," she said. "I hurt myself. It's not funny anymore." He just smiled and laughed crazily, getting into a low stance and circling her like an animal circles its prey, growling and yapping, swiping and swatting at her just to make her scream and kick and beg him to stop. She laughed and screamed no and tried to limp away, but he kept cornering her until finally he tackled her and dragged her to the ground, kicked her legs up in the air. She screamed and laughed and complained and pushed him and hit him until he was fucking her, and then she screamed a different way and moaned and gripped onto his skin and begged for more. "Oh, Linda." "Oh, Jim." "I'm your only man, Linda." "You're my only man." "I'm all the man you need." "You're all the man I need, Jim."
"Tell me."
"I need you, Jim."
"Tell me."
"I need you."
"Tell me."
"Give me that fucking cock, Jim. I need your big fucking cock."
You little fucking slut.
fucking her harder. All she could do was scream, Jim! Since by now he was really trying to hurt her, and succeeding, not to mention vegetables and rocks were jabbing into her back, getting smashed into the ground with both of their weight. He came inside her, howling like an animal at the purple sky and the moon coming out behind the clouds. She laid with her arms at her sides, catching her breath almost as animal-like as him, her legs still up where the man they called Jim was holding them. He started to laugh a little bit, breathing in deep, feeling the night air hitting his chest, wind blowing across his face. I love you, baby. I don't care what you say. I still love you. I love you too, Jim, reaching up to stroke his face with her gloved hand, the thing torn and mud-stained and bloody. He looked down at her slowly, from the sky and the moon, to her glowing golden hair, skin sweaty and shining in the dirt. Maybe it was the light from the moon, or maybe it was just the sex, but he saw in her eyes something he'd never seen before, a certain smile, a certain forgiveness, openness, honesty, trust, love. She squeezed him with her legs and brought him closer so she could hug him with her arms, too. She kissed him and hugged him, but the look on his face didn't change. He was looking at her, but he was looking somewhere else. His hands didn't move to touch her. He didn't put his arms around her. She said his name and gripped his skin and his hair and kissed him and pressed her body against him, but he didn't respond. He tried to push away and sit up straight. She kept her arms around his neck and kept smiling, giving him those same loving eyes. He grabbed her by the throat and reached back into his boot to get his gun, but she was quicker and stabbed him in the liver. Ugh! At the impact of the knife was all he got out, before uttering noises caused a horrible pain. He grit his teeth, growling and groaning, breathing short and heavy. She grinned at him, twisting the knife. He grabbed the gun out anyway, but fell back from the pain. You fucking... About to aim the gun at her, but she was already on her knees aiming a gun at him with both hands. He froze, growled at her. You bitch! Spitting out blood and grabbing at his stomach. What was that, Jim? In her southern accent, getting to her feet, keeping the gun steady at his head. You were saying something? He growled, trying to get words out through the pain, inching back as she stepped closer, hand with the gun covering his belly, free hand pushing against the ground to edge away. You fucking bitch! He bellowed, holding out the word until he coughed up blood, kept shrieking and gurgling things that might have been words, but didn't sound like it. Oh, she said, like he was being cute, then shot him in the hand that was holding the gun, covering his stomach. He screamed out and let go of the gun, then grabbed at it with his good hand, but she shot at his good hand and he pulled it away, watching her, trying to pull his gun closer with his foot, trying to get his pants on right. She straightened out her dress, so much easier than pants, and came over to pick up his gun, still aiming hers at him. He howled like a wounded animal. He howled like a wounded animal, trying to stand but only able to drag himself across the ground, clawing at her ankle as she walked casually by. You fucking whore! She didn't respond and kept walking. Get back here, bitch! Linda! Dragging himself along after her, getting to one knee, then falling, dirt sticking to his bloody body. Linda! You fucking bitch! Shrieking out animal sounds at the end of his words, howling at the pain and the confusion, the betrayal, his stupid shitty little heart for falling for it. He knew what she was doing, but he fucking hesitated anyway. Linda! She turned around just to scream, My name's not Linda, you fucking idiot! Linda! Opting to disagree. This is why she left you in the first place. Linda! Because you're a big, dumb, fuck off, needy, Linda, you bitch, whiny, arrogant, you fucking love me, Linda, selfish, good for nothing, fucking dog. He just screamed at her, reaching out his good hand like he might strangle her, but instead just gripping into the ground to keep dragging towards her. And you're so fucking stupid, you fucking love me.
Fuck you.
I just fucked some other guy, stabbed you, shot you, and you still fucking love me. He didn't even try to make actual words this time, just shrieked until the pain made him collapse and cough and eventually cry. She just stood there, shaking her head at him, arms crossed, gun dangling off the cut-out finger of her gloved hand. I bet Linda was your fucking mom, she said, and turned to walk away.
Linda,
He moaned, with whatever breath he had left after all the struggling and shouting.
Linda, wait.
She slowed a little, half-turned over her shoulder, just thinking, then decided to turn around. Didn't say what, just looked at him. And he said,
Who's Jim?
She didn't say anything at first, just played with the gun dangling from her finger. Then she laughed to herself, smiled wide and laughed out loud at him. Jim's nobody, you fucking idiot. He just panted, squinting at her, shaking his head like he didn't understand. I just like that record Strange Days, and Jim Morrison is fucking hot. I want to fuck Jim Morrison. He frowned on his hands and knees and stared down at the ground like everything he knew was unraveling. She just grinned, with a single exhale of piteous laughter, and turned her back to walk away and leave him to die, painfully.
Wait,
He kept trying, but she kept walking.
wait.
He stopped himself when he almost called her name, but instead he asked,
You want to know who Linda is?
She rolled her eyes and kept walking.
Linda,
He almost said again,
wait, please, just let me tell you.
starting to crawl after her again.
You'll like it. It suits you, baby.
She rolled her eyes again, but stopped this time and turned around. Okay, she shrugged, just because you're such a good fuck. I'll humor you.
Bang!
He shot her with a gun from his other boot. She looked down at herself, started to pour blood from her side. She touched it with her hand like she didn't believe. He was laughing hysterically, rolling around in the dirt, bleeding, dying, shirt lost somewhere in the field, pants half on. She felt the pain suddenly and fell to her knee.
Linda was my golden retriever when I was a kid,
He told her, and then laughed so loud and crazily that it actually rang in her ears.
You dumb bitch. You dumb bitch.
Mocking her between maniacal fits of laughter, as if there was no pain anymore from being stabbed or shot, smiling and laughing and rolling around like he'd won.
She used to tip the fucking trash cans over. My dad would send me out with a rolled up newspaper.
Laughing at her,
Oh, Linda!
he bellowed, and then beat his hands on the ground. He was laughing so hard, calling out to her in the voice he used to sneak up on the dog, confuse her so she would freeze and give him time to run up and smack her for being bad.
Linda! Get out of the damn trash, you dumb bitch!
Poof, poof, making sound effects, swinging an imaginary newspaper.
Arf, 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 arf.
Making noises like a dog crying and complaining. He laughed hysterically, then shrieked in pain, then laughed somewhere in between pain and hysterics. He was rolling around on his back when she looked up at him from her hands and knees, clutching her stomach. They looked each other in the eyes, and he said,
Linda, you dumb bitch. Bang!
She shot him in the face, and his body jerked, then went still. And for the first time since she could remember, he didn't make a sound. She knelt there, heaving, clutching herself, but eventually got up and grabbed the keys from Jim's pocket, shook her head at him, made an incomprehensible face as she looked at him one last time, but didn't really look at the body, just looked at an image or feeling in her mind. She clutched at her bloody side and limped back to the car under the fading sunset, bleeding and groaning, dress wet and warm, left leg starting to go numb. Chapter 6.1 April, somewhere on the highway, Midwest United States of America. The woman who wasn't Linda drove for as long as she could, radio off, windows closed, shivering cold. She started to feel dizzy and couldn't go on, so she pulled over and laid down in the back seat, shivering, crying, missing him. If not missing him, then just missing, feeling utterly alone for the first time in so long. There was no way for her to pretend. There was no one she could hold or fake it with. She was going to die. She was going to bleed too much and die. She was freezing, starving, shivering, crying on and off. Found one of his shirts and did her best to tie it around herself and stop the bleeding, but it didn't keep her warm. She should have done something about the bleeding before she started driving, but she wasn't thinking right. She wasn't so good at this sort of thing. She shouldn't have killed him, or at least she should have waited until she had another plan. She was just so fucking mad at him, so sick of him. He was such a fucking fool. She was glad she killed him. Who was she kidding? If she could go back, she'd do it again, and again, and again. If she could go all the way back, she would have done it right the first time. All he did was fuck things up. All he did was cause her grief. He did things just to piss her off, just to grin in her face about it, just enough to make her keep rolling her eyes, keep shoving his shoulder, keep feeling that tingle in her nerves like she wanted to explode and fucking kill him. He did things just to see if he could, just to get them in trouble, for his own fucking amusement, just for the fucking fun of leading her through the stupid maze of his childish insanity. And she fucking loved him. She started worrying too much about the bleeding, about dying in her sleep, bleeding too much and dying. It was the only thought in her mind. She was starting to feel so weak. She was dizzy. She couldn't remember the last time they ate. She ate. It was maybe 2 days ago. Jim ate all the time. Sometimes she picked at what Jim had, but she started shrieking in anger. Who the fuck was Jim? Jim was nobody. She kept driving. She was running out of gas. Did she have money? She didn't know. She left most of her stuff at the hotel and got the fuck out of there before somebody found them. Jim took the other man's wallet before she could. She wasn't going to argue with him over money at the time. He was out of his mind. Maybe he had the money. Well, he was dead. Maybe it was in his clothes. Maybe it was somewhere in the car. She didn't know. Just kept driving. When she finally got to the next town, the gas light was on. Her heart hurt like it was having trouble beating. She was starting to sweat and feel a horrible gaping pain in her side, like her whole body was falling apart, collapsing inward. She decided miles ago that she needed help. She didn't know what might happen, or what lies she'd have to tell, or who she'd have to fuck, but she needed help or she was going to die. She was going to bleed out, get an infection, freeze to death. She needed help. It was pretty late, and as she drove into town, the first place with the lights on was McDonald's. She pulled into the parking lot, and stiffly, crying as she did, stood up to get out of the car. But then she felt the blood run down her leg, and the horrible pain in her side, and decided she couldn't walk all that way and face a bunch of assholes in an all-night McDonald's. She got back in the car and just started to cry. She pulled up to the drive-through window with a big, strained smile on her face, stains all over her dress, blood and mud, tears in her eyes. "Hi," she said in her most pleasant voice, because the young, pimply-faced kid was just staring at her. He said, "Did you, I don't think you ordered at the speaker back there." "No," she said, with such an incredible smile for someone in such pain. The skin on her face pulled tight as she grimaced. A vein stood out on her temple. "No, I'm not hungry. I was actually just wondering if you could give me directions to the hospital." "The, hospital?" "Yes," trying not to get angry at this stuttering zit-faced fool. "I'm expecting," she said, since she was holding her stomach and had a big lump of a man's shirt tied up there anyway. "And I'm not from here in town. If you could just give me directions, grimacing and allowing herself to feel the pain, since she'd given herself an excuse anyway, and maybe it would hurry him up. "Oh shit," he said. "I don't know. I'm not really sure. Hey, Janet," calling back inside the restaurant. "Just tell me where's the fucking hospital," she snarled at him. So he jumped and turned back around. She put her smile back on, but was visibly shaking from the pain and frustration. She pulled up at the hospital and got out without turning the car off or finding a parking space, just stopped in front of the entrance and got out, limping and crying and groaning, moving as fast as she could through the pain. She pushed her hair out of her face, smearing blood across her forehead and into her blonde hair. She peeled her soaking wet glove off, with the lace and the 3 fingers cut out, threw it into a bush. She dragged herself through the brightly lit entrance, smearing blood all over the ground. An older woman barely noticed her, muttered something and smiled, then gasped at the trail of blood. Other people in the lobby had the same reaction. They would notice her like she was nothing out of the ordinary, then gasp at her condition, but not help, just stare and mutter at one another. She walked right up to a counter with a woman sitting behind glass. Her angry, determined face switched to kind and needing, wanting, helpless and scared. She was an obvious master at this, but it obviously drove her crazy too. All this acting. Excuse me, please. I need help," she said, limping up to the counter. "Well, hi there," the woman said, frowning, but not seeing the whole picture below the counter. "Have you been a patient here before?" "No, please. I don't have time. Pressing her bloody scarred hand against the glass and grimacing, doubling over in pain, which was real pain, but which she allowed herself to show and feel finally, all rushing at her at once tenfold. "Oh my lord!" the woman gasped at the bloody hand dragging down the glass. She jumped back and then shouted for someone to come help. The woman and 2 nurses swarmed to her side, trying to hold her up, trying to see where the wound was. I was just getting a ride out of Denver. A man gave me a ride," she said, crying. The nurses were all yelling at one another, grabbing towels and walking her down the hall. I don't know what happened. He seemed so nice." Don't touch her, a nurse yelled at another nurse. "Wait till we get her to a bed. Where's the wound, dear? How did this happen?" "He pulled over to the side of the road," not really hearing them, not giving them the answers they wanted, just explaining herself for her own sake. "And he dragged me out into a field." "Were you sexually assaulted, dear? Where is all the blood coming from?" "He tried to rape me. I wasn't strong enough. It's okay, dear. What's your name? Do you have any other family in the area?" "I managed to get away from him. I was running away and he shot me. "Dear, what's your name?" "He left the keys in the car, and so I got in the car." "Your name?" "I drove off as fast as I could. I didn't even think. I just drove as fast as I could." "Dear," pulling back a curtain to where they were going to lay her down on a bed. "What's your name, dear?" My name?" "Yes, dear. What's your name?" My name?" Like just the thought of it was foreign, like she didn't understand the concept, trying to think, spinning, remembering, forgetting, trying to pick out the truth from the lies. And then she fainted on the bright hospital linoleum. The nurses helped break her fall. She lied sprawled out, bleeding, hair splayed, face turned cheek against the floor, mouth open, eyes closed, one hand still gripping a nurse's arm, the other clutching her stomach. Doctors and nurses moving frantically around as the story moves up and away from her. Chatter dies out, and the woman we called Linda just wasn't there anymore. You have been listening to Highway, a Mexican American Pastoral by Edward Cabras.